Steps up, now will throw it from Monangai, and it's incomplete. Oh, it's tipped, it's intercepted. It was tipped into the hands of Hancock, and Hancock along the near sideline. He's got a blocker. One man to beat, flags come flying in, and Hancock is into the end zone. Right now, touchdown Ohio State.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
From the 19-yard line, right hash going left to right. Man in motion on the edge. Here's a pass, and it's intercepted. That's Kareni Reed, and he takes it to the house on the first play of the game. 21 yards, a pick six for Kareni Reed in Utah.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Rattler on 3rd and 8. Herman brings pressure, hit as he throws. Jump ball! What a catch! Xavier Legette! He is him!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Missouri still trying to get set from the end zone. Cook throws one. It's intercepted. House call for Major Burns. And LSU is going to escape Columbia with a win.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Henderson in motion, looking to throw. Complete. Touchdown, Jared Wiley, the tight end.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Milroy steps up in the pocket. He's going to take off with it, and he's getting the first down and a lot more. This is what he can do. Milroy might have scored.
Now here's Paul Catalina.
Welcome in. Day 3 of me at this big, lonely desk right here. I'll actually have somebody sitting next to me tomorrow. My friend Trey Elling is going to come up. But, I'm lonely. It's just me and Jack in here right now. Garrett's on his way, so...
good company.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, we've had a fun day. Steven Simcox was in here earlier, but, I miss my guys. As hard as that might be to believe, I do. I miss my guys.
I think it might only be hard to believe for those of us who are here on a daily basis. You might be letting everyone know too much right now, Paul.
Maybe so. I can't wait for next week when they're back. And then I'm only here 4 days next week, and then I'm off to vacation. But we have a shorter first segment today because we got to go to a break, and then we get our first guest, who's Brian Murphy, frequent guest on the show, WRAL TV in North Carolina. He he covers everything when it comes to, sports, business, government, all that goes on there. And so I want to talk to him, of course, a little bit about the ACC and how North Carolina is hovering around that. But most importantly with him coming up, that law about North Carolina and North Carolina State that is in front of the legislature about them playing teams like Charlotte and App State in state schools regularly to maybe combat the leaving behind of teams due to realignment. So we'll talk about that, but I did want to talk about this to start off. Joe Moglia, who coached at Coastal Carolina and now consults on their board and athletics department and all that, who has been a CEO, is a brilliant guy. We had him on the show before. I reached out to him. He was not apparently available today, but hopefully get him on soon to talk about this op-ed he wrote in the Indy Star. And there's a lot in this op-ed, but I'm going to go through. This is the last part of it, but go ahead and leave that up, Jack. But listen to these comments he has on the NCAA and its future after NCAA versus House. Bankrupting the NCAA would have disbanded the organization's ineffectual leadership and structure, making way for something that actually serves the needs of athletes and universities. But that's not what happened. There's a prevailing sense that the NCAA is too big to fail, and that collapse would irrevocably destabilize college sports. That fear is short-sighted. If the NCAA disappeared tomorrow, it might disrupt a couple of seasons, but the conferences could quickly fill the void. Unfortunately, too many administrators seem to prefer the status quo to leading. And to kind of skip ahead a little bit here, one potential approach for the major Division I revenue sports is football and men's and women's basketball to be spun off into the professional college athletics, the PCA, modeled after successful sports businesses like the NFL, collective bargaining, binding contracts, direct payment to players, NIL deals, and more. Amateur college athletics would remain with the NCAA, where the only compensation players could receive beyond a scholarship would be through direct NIL deals with brands, eliminating booster collectives. So, if a player at the ACA level was a star in a revenue sport, they could transfer to a PCA program. It's worth remembering that 95% of college athletes do not get money even under the current system, and they would need to be recruited by a PCA program. Finally, D1 schools could collectively designate other sports for inclusion in the PCA if they want. The NCAA has been dismissive towards any potential spinoff, including a Super League proposal for Power 5 football. Indeed, that concept reportedly struggled to gain traction among the Power 5, largely because TV rights have been sold years in advance. However, all the deals will have expired by 2034, the same year the NCAA's settlement runs out. Now, I know that was a lot. I read you a lot there. But the last sentence is the key part of it. In 2034, the NCAA's television deals, all the conference TV deals run out, and the settlement is being done being paid. So in 2034, that's realistically when this kind of shakeup could happen. So you've got 10 years of lead time, college athletics, to figure this out. And I know that a lot of you, I read S. Michael DeHart, your comment right as you signed in to the chat room today about this going the wrong way and, the world falling apart. I get that. But the NCAA is completely ineffectual, and they're not working right now. It is not working. None of it is working. All of this just kicks cans down the road to avoid lawsuits for now. But unless they figure out how to avoid lawsuits in the future, this is going to keep happening. So they need to restructure. In my opinion and many others, there's no reason for the NCAA to exist in its current form at all. And it could be disbanded, and they could sell those offices in Indianapolis or repurpose them for whatever the new thing is. But the new thing has to happen, and it has to happen within the next decade, or they're just going to create more problems and more problems. And Joe Moglia does a great job of illustrating how this is. And the NCAA wants to keep as much of the old way together as they can, but that thought alone is what's killing them. It's not how it was. It's never going to be how it was, and you can't make it go back. So instead of trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, just move forward. That's the NCAA's problem. Life only moves in one direction. We all know that. As much as you try to go back, you're still going to be pushed forward. The best you can do if you don't want to go forward is stay in the same place, and that's not good because eventually you're going to be pushed forward. Everything goes one way. It's that way. It's forward. That's the way. The NCAA has been backward for too long. Now they're being thrust into forward, and they're trying to dig their heels in and stay as much as they can or walk as slow as they can on that path. A ton of that is greed. Another part of it is just short-sightedness. Maybe it's not people who are necessarily greedy. They just can't understand any other way to do things. I know it sucks for a lot of college football fans. They don't want to see it go this way. The problem is it's already gone this way. And if you don't do something about it and do something about it soon, it's going to be even worse than you could possibly imagine because the more cooks they allow in the kitchen, the more things they push on down the road, the less time they take to figure out what is the best course of action what is fair for everybody, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So in order to stave things off, just move forward. It's great advice for life. The NCAA needs to know it. College athletics needs to know it. Everything goes forward. You can't make things how they were. It's just impossible. Nothing is ever exactly as it was. You can maybe get it close, but even there, I don't think they'll even do that. So, Bracket Cat, how small do we look up there from your pulpit, Paul Catalina? He's just kidding. But yes, I like that. But no, that is, I rarely pontificate. Do I pontificate, Jack?
Off the air, much yes. more than you do on air, which is not a lot.
Yeah, I rarely pontificate on the show. I'm a pontificator in private.
It's fun.
I'm a private pontificator.
It's fun for us.
Yeah, I'm a PP, private pontificator. You know.
Well, I gotta admit, I'm also a PP.
Yeah, no, it's fine to be a PP. Be a private pontificator. This is a public pontification, which is also a PP. But
it's a different kind of PP.
Different kind of PP. But yeah, this is a public pontification, but it's just, and I tweeted out the article earlier. So if you go to my Twitter and see it, I said, read this. It is an op-ed again from Joe Moglia. It is absolutely really well done, really well thought out, and has a lot of things in it that we just need to maybe wrap our arms around it. And as a guy who has a lot of success in the business world and a lot of success in the athletics world, he's one of the guys that, maybe we should be looking to. And if you want a person who should head this new organization, I would think that Joe Moglia deserves a call. That's just my opinion, because he seems to be someone who has a grasp on all of it. We're going to take a break right here. I know it's a little bit early. We got other stories to get to later on. But yesterday, you'll remember we talked about North Carolina passing a law that would have them required to schedule, or potentially passing a law, required to schedule in-state schools for North Carolina and North Carolina State at least once a year in football and basketball, rotating through 3 or 4 schools in a 6-year period. They would have to do that to kind of stave off some of the reactions of college football realignment. We'll talk about next with Brian Murphy of WRAL in North Carolina. He joins us. This is 365 Sports.
It's the season to rev up your drive with Alan Samuels with the new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and top-notch service. Looking for a reliable ride to conquer these beautiful spring days? Look no further. The powerful trucks and sleek sedans are the perfect SUV. We've got the perfect vehicle to match your style and budget. Over 300 new vehicles to choose from. Now's the time to make your move. Enjoy special discounts, low financing rates, and incredible incentives. But hurry, these offers won't last forever. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations. Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back. Paul Catalina here on 365 Sports. Flying solo this week, but that means I have more time for one-on-one time with some of our favorite guests, like Brian Murphy from WRAL in North Carolina. And Brian, this law that's in front of the legislature about North Carolina and North Carolina State playing schools like Charlotte or App State regularly through year over year, how, first of all, does it have a good chance to be passed? And second of all, how would the North Carolina and NC State folks react to it?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how much of a chance it has to pass and how much of a messaging bill this is to sort of prod North Carolina and North Carolina State to schedule those games. The legislature here does a lot of things to make other people act without eventually passing that into law. I've gotten no reaction from North Carolina or NC State or ECU, Appalachian State, or Charlotte, the other schools impacted by this. I think all of even though I've reached out to all of them, I think they're all kind of laying low and seeing what happens, what develops in the legislature. I think the worst thing for one of them to do, particularly State and Carolina, would be to come out and say, this is a terrible bill. We don't want to deal with it. Please don't do this. And that might fire up the people that are pushing it even more.
How concerned are those schools that North Carolina will, particularly North Carolina? We don't know, in this realignment shuffle or the ACC exodus where NC State really falls. I mean, I think they're attractive to other conferences, particularly if they were open. The Big 12, I think, would certainly give them a ring. But for North Carolina in particular, how scared are those schools of never being able to play them in football and basketball?
North Carolina plays them in football. Like, they just had a home and home with App State. They've got a game against a series with Charlotte coming up. So I don't think they're scared. And NC State plays those teams routinely. I just think that this would be put it in state law. This would force it to happen. I think the concern is more from an economic standpoint from the lawmakers, saying, why are you playing Louisiana Tech? Why are you playing Old Dominion? Why are you playing UConn? When you could just as easily be playing teams in our state, keeping all that money in the state. UNC played at Appalachian State, not last year, but the year before, and was an amazing game, went multiple overtimes, and, huge sellout crowd. There's estimates that it generated $15 million for the city of Boone and the county up there. And so I think this is really lawmakers who attended those schools, who represent those parts of the state, saying, hey, we want to see this routinely. I think that's the big thing, right? North Carolina will schedule games against ECU and Appalachian State, but getting them to go to those places, which is something the ACC doesn't want them to do, right? The ACC doesn't want its teams playing at G5s. That's how you lose games. That's how you downgrade the reputation of the conference. They don't want the teams playing at those schools. The lawmakers obviously want them playing at those schools.
Well, look, the ACC is not too far down the road. I'm sure they've knocked on the door. So I'm sure they've watched it. They've got other problems. Like, this is obviously probably far down their list of it. But it is interesting to see that going forward. I do wonder how many other states would try to do that. Like, I know it would probably come up here in Texas, Brian, but I don't think it would last very long because the two schools they'd be pointing at have turned their nose up on the rest of them years ago.
Right. And I mean, and that I think would be North Carolina and North Carolina State, same desire. I don't know if they have quite, if the gap between them and the other schools is as big as it is in Texas. That would allow them to get away with it. The other thing to remember, the UNC has, and I'm not exactly sure how Texas works, but, they have a board of governors that's in charge of all 16 colleges in the state or 16 public colleges. So they have as much a responsibility to ECU and Appalachian State and UNC Charlotte as they do to NC State and UNC. So they're all governed by the same kind of board at the very top. And so they have, they'll say, hey, it's our duty to look out for those schools as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit different here.
Yeah.
It's a little different. All right, now when it comes to the ACC and and North Carolina in particular going forward, it seems like when it comes to Florida State and Clemson, those schools are very united, top to bottom in this is what we're doing. Obviously, because they have filed lawsuits. North Carolina, to me, I guess politically being in the same state where the ACC is housed and where the two of the four lawsuits are being tried, is just watching this from the outside. And there's a bit of a divide right now in that there are some very loud people who want out, and then there's some people who are more traditional who don't. How do you think it plays out for North Carolina in the long run and then trickles down to schools like NC State and then the schools like Duke and Wake Forest who really, really don't want them to leave?
Right. And I think one of the important things in that bill that we were just talking about is it mandates that UNC and NC State play every year as well. Mm-hmm. Obviously not a problem right now that they're both members of the ACC, but if you look down the road, they could be at different conferences. So they're trying to get ahead of that potential issue. I don't think it's that everyone at UNC doesn't want to leave. Look, there are a lot of traditionalists who like the ACC, understand the revenue problems with the ACC. I think the difference between the loud voices and those who aren't calling is, what does the public posturing get you, right? Like, how is it in North Carolina's best interest to be so vocal about, hey, we want to get out of here? I just think there are some who have decided that that's not the best way to play this. They're doing all their work. They're looking at the options. They were part of that Magnificent Seven that considered breaking away from the conference in some way. I think they're doing all the steps. They're taking all the steps they need to take. They just don't want to be loud and vocal about, hey, what good does it do you to bash the ACC when it may be your home for the next 5 years, 10 years, all the way through 2036? Like, I think that's the approach. That's what differs. The two approaches: we're going to be very vocal about it, or the other approach of let's work behind the scenes, do our work, but not be out there publicly bashing the ACC.
Brian, the ACC, obviously their misstep was years ago when they could have kind of doubled down on football. They tried to go the other direction and say, well, look, we're already a great basketball conference. Let's make sure everybody knows that. And, that served them, I think probably to the maximum that it's going to serve them. And they did not, because again, North Carolina hasn't won an ACC title in over 40 years. Clemson and Florida State, since Florida State joined the league, own most of those. Virginia Tech has a couple, and I know Maryland was in there once. There's, and they're not even in the league anymore. There's kind of upstarts, Pitt, that like pop up and get something. But for the most part, it's Clemson and Florida State who have won all these, and they're the ones who are going to leave. Do you see the ACC and particularly North Carolina maybe doubling down more on football than they have in the past?
I mean, to be fair, I think the ACC recognized this a long time ago, and they went after football schools. I mean, first of all, they added Florida State, right? Then they added Miami and Virginia Tech, who were supposed to carry the league in many ways, football-wise, and they just haven't. Virginia Tech plateaued and has fallen down. Miami just cannot get back to where it was. I mean, Syracuse has a good football tradition. I mean, they didn't take UConn, for example. They took Louisville over UConn, thinking Louisville is a better football brand than Connecticut. So I think the ACC tried. Where they struggle is they don't have They don't have the alumni bases of the Big Ten, which can generate, massive ratings, even if some of those schools are mediocre in football. And they don't have just this deep-seated passion and loyalty that the SEC has. And so the schools that have that, Clemson and Florida State, I think you're seeing, are trying to make those moves. I mean, I saw Georgia Tech has like upped its budget. I know, North Carolina and NC State are doing everything they can in football. But you pointed it out. Neither of those teams have won a conference title since the late 70s, early 80s. For North Carolina and North Carolina State, it's not who they are to be top 15, top 10 powerhouses in football. And I think they can throw a lot of money at it, but we know that the top 15, really the top 10 doesn't change all that much decade after decade.
How much, what do you feel the gauge is on the strength of the league because Clemson and Florida State are leaving? Like that's the one thing I think the ACC won't say out loud, but because they don't want to, they hope that there's some sort of, Hail Mary out there that convinces them to stay or something changes financially for them. And they want to hold out the hope that they can keep it together. But Florida State and Clemson aren't doing this to stay in the ACC. They're doing this to leave, and they're just trying to find out the cost. Like, how much does it cost for us to leave so we can raise that money? That's all they want to know. So what's the gauge on the ACC after that happens?
I mean, I think that's the biggest question. And I think you can start to see kind of their strategy over the summer when they added SMU and Stanford and Cal. If they were to lose Florida State and Clemson and that's it, well, they've already backfilled. They've backfilled with P5 schools in the case of Stanford and Cal. They don't have to go looking at Memphis and UCF and USF, Connecticut. They've already backfilled. They have enough to keep the conference together. I think they learned some lessons from the Pac-12 when USC and UCLA left and everybody was looking for an exit ramp. I mean, I can see the ACC doing a couple things. One, I know Big 12 people don't want to think this, but I do think that there are some members of the Big 12 who would prefer to be with the schools in the ACC. I think, Stanford and Cal give them some clout academically, athletically in some ways that I think could help them lure maybe a Western division together. The other thing you could look at is, this league really talks about academics in a way that some of the other leagues don't. You have a Duke, you have a Wake Forest, you have a Boston College. Pittsburgh has very good academics. Miami is a private school. You've added SMU and the two schools out in California. Can you put together a league that is really good in other sports besides football and really, really good in academics that other schools, other colleges want to be a part of? I don't know how much revenue that gets you. I mean, and is it worth it to do that, or do you just go find the best athletic programs you could find? So I think the ACC has some options. There's also going to be a lot of schools in the ACC that don't have anywhere to go, quite frankly. And so it's in their best interest to keep the league alive in a way that I don't think was there for the Pac-12.
Brian, thank you so much. I know you're slammed busy all the time, and thanks for hopping on. And we will talk to you again as stories develop. You're our go-to guy. We love having you on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Brian Murphy, WRAL. In the next segment, Jordan Edmonson of the Sickos Committee, one of the best follows on Twitter for college athletics. Just so hilarious what they do. We're kind of going to get their story. We're going to talk about some stuff going on in college athletics, their perspective on things. So excited to talk to Jordan. This is 365 Sports.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoke. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or wacocustommarketplace.com.
Carry On Solutions is a full-service IT management service provider and provides professional services for businesses servicing clients in the U.S. and globally. They are authorized partners with Microsoft, Quest, Veeam, NetApp, HP Enterprise, and Cisco Duo. Whether you are outsourcing IT services, merging companies, or wanting to tackle cybersecurity challenges, contact Carry On Solutions. We are IT. Call or email Dave at 832-437-0138 or sales at Carry On Solutions. That's CARRION Solutions.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
One of the most entertaining follows on Twitter, and they've got a great podcast, and they're on YouTube, is the Sickos Committee, who kind of started, I guess they're the inverse of most Twitter follows when it comes to, you know, a lot of the things you follow on college football are always pushing the biggest things. Sickos Committee, obscure, bad games, all of those things. That's what they like to do. And Jordan Edmonson of the Sickos Committee joins us now. Jordan, I've wanted to talk to you guys, you and the commish, for so long, because I really do love what you do. You crack me up on a daily basis. Now you handle the, like, you're the social media, like, graphics and all that. So this is the meeting of the minds between you two is quite entertaining. How did this come about for you guys?
This was a pandemic project, like most things. And combined with a midlife crisis, I am going to hit 40 this year. Kamish is a little older than me. And during the pandemic, we were all fans of the Shutdown Fullcast podcast.
Yeah.
And they started a Discord during the pandemic, which Discord, listeners, if you don't know, it's like a chat thing, good old chat room. And we started talking about, I don't know, a ton of different stuff. And we realized that we all had this love for more obscure college football, the stuff that not everyone else was watching. This sort of came to a head when we were watching, this must have been 2021. We were watching UTEP and New Mexico State play on a local El Paso TV station at 9:30 at night, and realizing how much fun that was. And we just started tweeting about it and making jokes, and here we are now.
You have, and look, you guys have caught the attention of many major figures in college football. Like, people send you, like, I'm amazed at the amount of stuff that people send you of like Sickos committee material. It probably makes your job easy and hard at the same time as, oh, this is really good, but now I have to turn this around. What was the point and that you kind of noticed, like, oh, hey, we're kind of in this community now. People are noticing us.
We really got to that point when the folks that we enjoy following, Brendan Marcello, Nicole Arbach, those college football folks, started asking us questions or sending us things or asking what we thought about stuff. And we realized that we become part of the conversation sort of unintentionally. We're not journalists. We're just a bunch of college football fans from all over. And that sort of got us in the door. And now we're going to games, getting press passes, and almost look like a real organization. We have people keep emailing us asking to be our interns. We don't even pay ourselves yet. Let's everyone calm down before we start putting interns in. I've been in the broadcast game for almost 20 years now, but and it's like, and you ride the wave. Did you guys, when you started doing the podcast, Discord and all of that, did you have a plan, or was, like you said, it was just kind of boredom and all that? Yeah, no, we're building this thing as we're flying it, basically.
Yeah.
There was no plan to begin with. It started out as a Twitter account and some jokes for about 20 of us. And then we just kept talking, kept posting more, started the podcast, and all of a sudden things just kept blowing up.
So how many people are actually on the official Sickos committee?
So that is a great question. Let's see how we can say. On the podcast, there are 4 of us, me, Kamish, Pit Girl, and Beth, that run it every week. We have guests on there. Behind the main account on Twitter, we probably have another 5 or 6 people to help us post. Behind that in the Discord, we have our Patreons that are in there as well, but also folks that are just carries over from the old Discord. And that can be number from 50 to 150 plus.
Oh, wow. So like the committee is growing. You are. So you say, you're getting press passes, you're going to games now. How do you intentionally seek out the games that fit the Sickos committee model? Like, what are your criteria?
So our first statement is that all football is good football. That's our leading motto. And so going to any football is better than going to no football is always where I'm at. But the way I pick things out and the way we tend to think about this is there a compelling story that no one else is talking about? What is the weird thing here? We have folks who are big Kent State fans, and Kent State Akron, it's a blood feud rivalry game, one of the best rivalry games for the wagon wheel. And so we had folks at that one because that was so interesting. And that's a MAC game on a Thursday night. I forget what, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, but no one else was talking about it. Both those teams weren't great this year, but when they won that, when Akron won that game, it was huge. So that's the kind of stuff we're looking for.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. I've always been fascinated by going to different places I've never been to before. And like, by any means, it was not obscure, but, we've covered Baylor for a long time. So when we got the chance last year to go to UCF for that first UCF game, look, I grew up in Florida. I'd not been to a UCF game since they built their new stadium. I went, when I was a kid at the Citrus Bowl. I had no idea what it had become. And, you have all these bucket list things, like everybody wants to go to the big house, and believe me, one day I will. I'll do all those things, but also I really respect your mission and all that, because there are a lot of cool places that people don't know about that game day is super fun, and they're not all LSU and A&M and Ohio State.
One of our good friends, Jay Arnold, former Texas A&M football player. Jay, on his JOA last year, we pushed real hard to get him to South Dakota School of Mines, because South Dakota School of Mines has a drive-up tailgating. Basically, half the stadium is parking lot. So there's not stands on the opposite side. It's just tiers for cars. And so you can sit there and lay on your horn all game. That's amazing. That's something that I would kill to do. And that's something we want to show, because that's a game day experience like absolutely no other.
Yeah, no, again, super unique. So do you guys have you planned out the games that do you do that now, look at the schedule and go, okay, here's where the Sickos committee is targeting this year?
Starting to do that a little bit. A lot of it right now is also just where we can get our people because we all have day jobs at this point. So we're still trying to figure that out. I just bought my tickets to go watch the Brawl this year, the Backyard Brawl in Pittsburgh. On our podcast, Pit Girl and Beth, they're Pitt and West Virginia fans. So I said I was going to go to my first Brawl this year and go deal with that. I'm in North Texas, which is great for me because I get to just be within driving distance of everything. So I went to North Texas's opener against Cal, which was an absolutely fun game and really got me on the Cal bandwagon last year when I wasn't expecting it. We ended up watching Cal at the Independence Bowl last year too. Drove to Shreveport and watched them to finish it as well.
Yeah. Do you guys, and obviously like things like the Pop-Tarts Bowl, identify with you guys so well. Have bowls reached out to you guys about doing some stuff?
Yeah. We are in tight with a lot of the bowl folks. They love chatting with us. The Mayo Bowl is one of our favorites because they understand the weirdness. A lot of the bowls nowadays, I'll give them big credit. The bowl social media folks and the bowl marketing folks, not in the top tier, but like that next set down, they get it. They know that they want to bring eyes to their game, and we're happy to bring eyes to their games because it's football. I love football. I want to watch more of it. And so when you can get compelling teams, a fun gimmick, something to like really sink us in, the Pop-Tarts Bowl was the best about that. There was a storyline. It was emotional. It was tragic at the end. It was a bit Greek where he only had one eye left. The birds had consumed it. It was great.
Yeah, well, you know what was funny to me about that is the goal of a Pop-Tart is to get eaten. It is very, you said Greek is the best way. Like it is absolutely, I'm a soldier. My goal is to die. Like that kind of old, Trojan War type thing this is my goal is to die in glorious service. And that to me, was just so brilliant about it. I do think other ones, the Independence Bowl has a very long history, but they're kind of flagging to me. Like they need to all come up with gimmicks. Again, this could be, I'm pitching this idea to you. If you guys cut me in on the back end, fine.
There you go.
If you guys started the Sickos committee consulting, like bowl consulting firm, how to make your bowl interesting, I think you do very well.
I think so too. I know we've done this long enough at this point that we sort of know what draws people to bowls. It can be really anything. This is why it's a tough draw to be, okay, the Raytheon or the Lockheed Martin. Okay, I'm not going to go out and buy a jet fighter, but man, Pop-Tarts, I can buy Pop-Tarts. This is what I want. This is my bowl thing. So I can go eat Pop-Tarts.
Yeah. What? Who are some of the personalities that kind of inspired you guys on this, like around sports, like that kind of drew you into kind of like we can kind of do that? They're your spirit animal, so to speak.
A lot of this is going to be towards Spencer Hall and all the EDSBS folks,
Yeah.
Ryan Nanny, Jason Kirk, Holly Anderson. They're the ones that we listened to for a long time. They helped us find our voice, and we definitely see ourselves as, I believe Holly once referred to us as the dumb children. So more than happy to take that from you.
What are your thoughts like about the current state of college football and college athletics, especially given that you guys believe no football is bad football, but the power conferences absolutely believe that there is some bad football and they don't want a part of it. So you guys are some of the few champions for the rest of the folks who are getting squeezed out by the big boys right now.
I think that we're lucky because we don't have to always pay attention to the top stuff. We can just choose to ignore it sometimes, which is very relaxing. I have not said 5 words about Colorado football in the last 6 months, and I've been very fine with that. It's emotionally great for me because I don't have to deal with that. I can talk about all the other stuff. And I think that's how we sort of approach it. I like this sport because of the egalitarian nature, that the idea that, yes, there are 134 now, 5 maybe, FBS teams. Theoretically, they all have a chance. We know that's not the case. But they're all there on the same level. And that's the beauty of it. So if we're going to split off again, this whole idea of we're going to take the top whatever bit, whoever, and then pull the ladder up, of course, because no one else can come chase us. I think that goes against the spirit of the sport, of the last 150 years of the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're in North Texas. I'm in Waco. I think, look, I know we just met, and this might be let's do a game together somewhere. I think a good one, Tarleton State now just in Division I in Stephenville. We can go to Jake and Dorothy's, get a chicken fried steak, barbecue after the game. I think 365 and the Sickos committee need a collab. I think we need a collab.
Either down there or Sam Houston State. I've been really dying to get down there. I'm an ex-band director. That was my old job.
Okay.
So I'm very much a band nerd. And the Sam Houston Band has invited me to come down and play at some point. So I'm going to get my instrument out and go down there and play with them.
All right. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for hopping on the show. Always love reading your stuff on Twitter. I've listened to the podcast and all of that. You guys do a great job. And thank you for, look, we have a lot of people, we have 46,000 people subscribed. We have a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners, and a lot of them are champions of these schools who do not get, who are not the big boys, and thank you for being a part of that, because there's really good college football out there, and it doesn't just live in Columbus and Gainesville and in Los Angeles and Seattle. It's a lot of places. So keep fighting the good fight, and let's talk again soon. I would love to get every single one of you guys on the show and even come up to an event if you're close enough to us. It would be great.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. Jordan Edmonson of the Sickos Committee joins us here on 365 Sports. And next, we're going to get back into the stack now that Garrett's back, because, I didn't earlier, because I really don't care about Jack's opinion at all. We've talked about that. Yeah. It doesn't matter what he thinks about anything. He's just there to make me look good. That's what Jack is for. He's barely a person to me.
Oh, man.
No.
The low blows.
That was a low blow. No, but we'll get through the stack here in a second, going through a lot of stuff. Thanks again to Jordan Edmonson. He was great. The Sickos Committee is great. You follow him, right?
I do. That is an elite follow. If you are not following it, I don't know what you're doing wrong with your life.
Yeah. If you're not a Twitter person, they have the podcast, they have YouTube,
they have everything.
They have all that stuff. So you can find them, whatever, realm you want to find them in, you can certainly find them. When we come back, we get back into our stack. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, Garrett Ross. Well, he was here in the last segment, but he, wasn't part of the interview. Well, you heard him briefly. But Garrett Ross here with me today. Jack is in studio. The Smokes are still gone. They'll be gone this week. I'm here 4 days next week, and then I'm gone, of which Jack will be thrilled. He'll be very thrilled that I'm gone, especially considering that I'm just berating him nonstop at this point in his life. All right, Garrett, let's jump back into some stuff here. We already did the Joe Moglia thing, and that was very interesting. But you sent this to me last night, and if you're an NBA fan or a Major League Baseball fan, then this is good news for you, because the Bally Sports crisis that hit has been a big deal, in that some people can't see the games that they have in their market. But FanDuel, and this is from Barrett Sports Media, and they are nearing an agreement to purchase naming rights on the 18 regional sports networks owned and operated by Diamond Sports Group. Per Bloomberg, FanDuel would acquire an equity stake in the company and involve its programming for the channel. So that means like Kay Adams and her show would find a home there over the air. And right now, Diamond Sports Group, it's a subsidiary of Sinclair, and Sinclair owned as many local television stations as a company could probably own. I say that, and they would maybe want to buy 50 more tomorrow. It's a very, 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 very large company, and they've actually also had some SEC problems and things like that, monopolies and other things in markets. They've had to fight off that, which just to put a perspective on it, for the government to come after you now for being a monopoly, you really have to be overstepping your bounds. Ticketmaster, we're looking at Live Nation, Ticketmaster, like it took 30 years. Nothing's really changed other than digital tickets basically made scalping impossible.
Right.
So all they did was say like, hey, all those people who are scalping tickets, what if we did that?
Just cut out the middleman.
Well, just like, it's not illegal anymore because, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And then, but Sinclair, bought these, which were Fox Sports O&Os, like they owned them. Then Disney got them in, part of that. And then Disney spun them off. Sinclair bought them. Bally was the sponsor, but Sinclair was the company, and Diamond Sports Group, their subsidiary, that was trying to do this. And they, all the Major League Baseball and all that, well, they couldn't pay their bills to the teams. And the Rangers were caught up in this, the Diamondbacks, the Suns, like you name it. Like there were some big teams. The Rockets, I believe, have maybe been, in this wash, or the Astros. So all that's gone down. But FanDuel, who obviously is a casino and cries tears of pennies.
Yes.
Like they have money. And Bally was just a sponsor. So they were naming rights. So, for example, American Airlines doesn't own all the arenas that they have. They're just the naming rights sponsor of that. That's what Bally was for the channel, because Diamond Sports probably, it sounds like a lame channel. Now, FanDuel Sports Network has cachet and name, and they would have equity and control, essentially probably wrestling us away from Sinclair over the long haul. I would think that might be the long-term goal. So we'll see how that works out. But it is really, really interesting, and it would be, they announced recently that the FanDuel TV network, to include free ad-supported television called FAST and FanDuel TV Extra, Up and Adams and Run It Back, live sports coverage including horse racing, international baseball, international soccer, Poker Stars events, and they $3.4 billion in revenue last year when they were listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So they're looking to merge, and this could alleviate more than $8 billion in debt that Diamond Sports Group has. So it's good news, but again, like here you got FanDuel. This could shoot up their profile, or it could be a bad deal because they're getting in bed with somebody who didn't know what they were doing.
But also, like, it's crazy to think that, like, making gambling legal to the point when that's been about 3 or 4 years now that gambling's been legal in sports, to now where you have FanDuel buying the media rights to most of these things. It's fascinating to me. And my thing is, when FanDuel does this, and if they're able to have success with it, how long is it going to take before DraftKings starts doing it? Because it's no different than Netflix or Amazon Prime, anything. Like, okay, Amazon jumped on sports, right? Like, you jumped on the NFL, and Netflix, while you were kind of apprehensive, you saw the success they were able to have, and now you're like, damn, I got to get on that. So to me, it's like opening the door with FanDuel here. And how long is it going to take before you see DraftKings or some of these other people? Yeah, Circa, come in and grab something like this. It's just crazy to see how fast we went from gambling just being something you could not even mention to now it's literally taking ownership in these broadcast companies. It's just crazy where we're at, and just watching the trajectory of this as it continues to grow. Yeah, absolutely. All right, one more before we go to break and get Tyler Webb. And again, we've got some people on the show we've never had before. Yeah. Tyler Webb, I want people I want to give this guy a little bit of a chance to kind of talk about what he does, because he does these great Twitter threads of sports business type things, and they're really interesting. We talk about sports business a lot. We just were, as a matter of fact. But this is actual sports, and it's really sad news for a guy at Kansas, Elmarko Jackson. This is a press release from Bill Self today, and Elmarko Jackson tore the patella tendon in his knee at a camp, and he's going to be out for the entire season. So he was working really hard. I think this means, and we'll talk to Evan Miakawa about this here in about 30 minutes, but Kansas is probably they were probably out of the portal business. Now they probably have to go back in and get somebody, even though they were kind of confident with the roster with where it was sitting. But he was going to be a key reserve for them, and played well in spots last year, but he was a true freshman. This was a guy they're happy to bring along, and I'm sure he'll be a good player again, but the patella tendon injury is a tough one to come back from. So best of luck to Elmarko Jackson at Kansas, and we'll be interested to see how they address that need to address depth, which was a big issue last year. Yeah, I mean, given how everything played out and ultimately that derailed their season, Bill Self will definitely address this. This just really sucks for a player like Elmarko Jackson, who was, this could have been a breakout season for him. And, luckily now he'll be able to hopefully rehab and get back quick. But it's just an unfortunate situation. And if the way things went last year, this is not what you were hoping for as the jump-off point for your season if you're Bill Self and the Jayhawks. Yeah, got a couple more things to get to in our kind of daily stack of stories, but we'll stop that for a little bit while we get our next couple of guests on, Tyler Webb and then Evan Miakawa. That's all coming up here in the next hour. Tyler Webb is next. This is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely, and I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sickos 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, and joined by Tyler Webb, who's, I'm going to call him sports business reporter, but also podcaster. Tyler, I've followed you on Twitter here for a little while now, and I really like what you do, especially when it comes to sports business and some different things around it and highlighting it. Before we kind of get into some of the topics we're going to talk about, what kind of led you to this niche of the way that you do things with your Twitter threads, with your newsletter, YouTube socials and all that?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Paul. I was never the star on the field. And so when I was relating to professional athletes growing up and now since graduating, I found myself more drawn to the human interest stories, the stories that were happening off the field. And I found that there was a lot going on in the world of sports business. Frankly, a lot of things that I don't think get talked about because they get pasted over with the wins and losses and us rooting for our favorite players. And there's a lot that goes on. And as professional sports become much more commoditized and it just become more of a central part of how we vote, where our tax dollars go, I think they're important stories to talk about. So I found myself drawn to those, and increasingly other people have as well.
Absolutely. By the way, some breaking news. Kansas has got a transfer we'll talk about in a second, Garrett. I'm going to send that to you. But Tyler, you broke down, there's several stories that, and again, like this is kind of the perfect time of year to talk about these things because we're kind of in the midst of the transitional time. But, there are a lot of, we're mostly college sports that we cover here, but we also cover the NFL. But the Panther Stadium is really interesting to me because they do host, the ACC Championship. They're going to want to they host bowl games. They host a lot of different things. So they have not upgraded their stadium at all since 1996 when it was built. They haven't done anything to it. And now David Tepper, who I believe is the third richest owner or the second richest owner in the NFL, is asking for more than $750 million to redo it, and he's going to kick in part of his. What were the most intriguing things about that, and how do you think that shakes out, especially considering that Panthers fans want one thing that's not included in it?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head here. So Bank of America Stadium, built in 1996, one of the oldest, most outdated stadiums in the NFL. You actually had Adam Thielen earlier this week calling it one of the worst facilities in the NFL. So there's obviously some pressure here from the fans, likely from the city, and of course from the players to put some money into the stadium for some upgrades. The interesting part here is, as you know, David Tepper, one of the richest owners in the NFL, is requesting $650 million in taxpayer funding from the city of Charlotte. It's important to note that this money isn't going to come from any tax increases. There is a tourism tax that is in place in the city of Charlotte, and they're actually legally obligated to spend this money on activities that are going to increase revenue through tourism. So spending money on the stadium would obviously fit that bill. But there's obviously a lot of complaints here. And this isn't anything new. We see this all across sports where owners are essentially holding cities hostage, threatening to leave if they don't put up, in this case, $650 million for upgrades or even for new stadiums. Meanwhile, David Tepper, who's worth something like $20 billion, is only contributing $150 million in this initial renovation cycle, which is set to go through 2029.
Do you think that's going to happen?
I do think it's going to happen. Again, what you see here a lot of times is owners going to cities and saying, look, this is going to be something that is beneficial for you. You see these studies come out that say over the course of the next, call it 20 years, we're going to bring something like $16 billion in economic impact is often the term that gets thrown around to the city. Now, I draw issue with a lot of these studies because the term economic impact is really broad and doesn't often take into account things like replacement costs. Like people in Charlotte would spend money other places if the Panthers cease to exist tomorrow. There was a study done in Chicago that was really interesting that said if all the teams in Chicago, and obviously they have two baseball teams, they have a football team, they have a basketball team, they have a hockey team, if they were to all leave the city of Chicago, the economic impact of the city or the economy of the city would only shrink by about 1%. So people would find ways to spend money elsewhere. But they can say, we're going to bring these huge events. You mentioned the ACC championship to town, and there are going to be second order effects on the local economy that help politicians pitch it to the taxpayers that, hey, it's worth it to spend $650 million. So in the long term, I think this happens, and especially when you have your own players calling out how bad the stadium is, there's probably just too much pressure on this thing for it not to happen.
Yeah, Chiefs and Panthers right now. I mean, the Chiefs players also they're mad about theirs as well. They had the grades that came out were terrible for that. So now they all have more of a voice too. So it's maybe easier for some of this stuff to get called out and embarrass the owners. And David Tepper probably needs some PR after it's been very abysmal for him as an owner so far in the NFL.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that Chiefs one is really interesting that you bring up because the Chiefs president explicitly said we might consider leaving Kansas City, Kansas, if this funding package, similar to how it exists over in Carolina, exists in Kansas City. They said that they might consider leaving Kansas City, Kansas, if the stadium bill isn't passed. And of course, this doesn't mean that they're getting relocated to Oklahoma City, but it might mean that they move to a different neighborhood. They leave that stadium complex that obviously has Kauffman Stadium right next to it. So it's really interesting how owners try to leverage the fandom. And then at the end of the day, this is a tangible thing that fans are going to be able to enjoy. I mean, when we talk about the renovations to Bank of America Stadium, we're talking about new bathrooms, new escalators, new community areas outside of the stadium, things that will have a tangible impact on the fan experience. And at the end of the day, fans will probably look back on this and say, it was the balk of the price, but it's something that's going to benefit them down the line as well.
Yeah, but it also doesn't really, no community that's like the city's not going to make back the money at all. Like that never happens, right? Like they just decide this is where we're going to spend it on. And the whole, like you mentioned, that economic impact, the city really never sees that again.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm mostly talking about how the politicians are going to pitch it to their constituents because, again, we have never really seen this happen, or it's happened sparsely across the history of all sports. But teams picking up shop and moving to a completely different city is exceedingly rare. However, you also don't want to be the politician that happens under. So you're really stuck between a rock and a hard place where your taxpayers don't want you to spend this ludicrous. I mean, these price tags that we're seeing seem to get higher and higher. The $650 million price tag, if it passes and the vote is on June 24th, will go down as the most expensive NFL stadium renovation project since 2017 when the Dolphins renovated Hard Rock Stadium for $500 million. So you're stuck between this rock and a hard place where there's a huge gaudy price tag, but at the same time, you don't want to be the politician responsible for letting your local stadium deteriorate or, God forsaken, your team leave the city.
Yeah, you don't want to be. I mean, Oakland stood up to the A's, and that's where they are. They've lost everybody all the way around. So, Tyler, you also wrote on the Sunday Ticket lawsuit, which, as a former DirecTV Sunday Ticket subscriber, I'm super interested in because I would love $2,500. So I'm all for the other side in this one. Let's get me that $2,500 because I had it for a very long time. How do you see this playing out? And basically, NBA, MLB, I believe the NHL has it too, where you can just watch the team you want to if you're out of market, right, Garrett?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so you don't have to, watch every game. The NFL has it to where, I don't care if you like the Vikings or not. You're watching the Vikings if you have the Sunday Ticket.
Yeah, this one is really interesting, and credit to the NFL propaganda machine for allowing it to fly under the radar. But essentially what happened back in 2015, a class action lawsuit was filed against the NFL and DirecTV, who held the rights to Sunday Ticket at the time and did until a couple of years ago when YouTube TV obviously took over the rights there. And the lawsuit was exactly what you just described. The NFL is the only professional sports league in which you have to buy every game from every team in an out-of-market package, whereas the MLB, the NHL have these regional sports networks where you can subscribe just to those networks. And of course, they have a litany of issues themselves, solvency being one of them. But you can buy only a package for your team, which in turn reduces the price. The NFL has said, we're going to bundle these together. We're going to sell them as one major package, and we're going to split that revenue evenly across all of our teams, which is a really good deal, especially for some of these smaller market teams. I think of teams like Jacksonville, Green Bay, who might not otherwise be able to command the $62.5 million a year through their current YouTube TV deal that they would selling the rights individually. But what happened was fans got wise to this. 2.4 million fans are a part of this lawsuit, and another 48,000 businesses, and said, I think it's unfair. This is monopoly type pricing. You charging us for all these games at once. We're going to file a lawsuit. And experts are estimating that if this goes to trial and the NFL loses, they could be on the hook for somewhere over $6 billion, which the back of the napkin math there is if there's somewhere around 2.5 million plaintiffs in this case, over $6 billion would be around $2,500 per person, as you described, but that's of course not accounting for legal fees that obviously all come out of the settlement. So maybe at the end of the day, unfortunately, you might only see a couple $100. But I think that the real crux of this is that if this goes through settlement, and I want to be clear here, I really don't think that's going to happen for the stakes that I'm about to lay out to you. I don't think the NFL, as they have in the past, they have not let these things go to trial and risk a verdict that is counter to what they want to have happen. So what could happen if this reaches trial, the NFL loses, the $6 billion gets paid out. This would also set the precedent that each NFL team would have the ability to sell their individual media rights, just like you talked about the MLB and NHL teams already do. And for a lot of these NFL teams, probably for most of them, frankly, this would be a boon in business. I mean, when you look at the top teams in the other leagues, like the Lakers, the Dodgers, and the Warriors, all of these teams are commanding over $150 million per year for their local media rights, and they're averaging something like fewer than 2 million viewers per game, whereas NFL games consistently average 10 plus million viewers per game. You could see these teams commanding much, much more than NBA and MLB teams, and right now they're only making somewhere in the neighborhood of $62.5 million per year through this YouTube TV deal. So it's possible, especially big market teams like the teams in New York, the Cowboys, could be commanding $200, $300 million per year if they were allowed to sell their own media rights. The NFL obviously doesn't want this to happen. They like to have this control. So it's unlikely they're going to let this case reach all the way to trial. And you've seen them settle cases in the past, most notably the one where they were relocating the Rams out of St. Louis. They settled that case, paid $1 billion or a couple $1 billion in damages just to get it out of the news cycle.
One of the more, this might be obscure to people who are not on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I still refuse to kind of call it X, but the Dov Kleinman story is really interesting because he amassed a massive amount of followers, and this was at a time before Twitter was even monetized that he had quite a bit. And then now that Twitter is monetized, he was an aggregator. He wasn't creating or breaking any news on his own. He was taking highlights. It was a total aggregation site. He didn't make many bones about that, but he did run afoul of like people didn't like kind of what he was doing. But you have done a lot of work on this. Front Office Sports did a lot of work on this. What happened with him? And is he did he sell his Twitter page? Or I guess that's the theory, because it seems to have been different, and that's not something that you can do based on the Twitter agreement.
Yeah, you're right. This is a total inside baseball story, but it's probably one of my favorite of the offseason. So you're exactly right. Dove is a Twitter aggregator. So what that means is he'll take a report from an Adam Schefter, an Ian Rappaport, and he'll copy and paste what they report, and he'll credit them with their at the end of the tweet, which is fine. You're right. He makes no bones about it. He's not an NFL reporter or insider. He's purely somebody who takes all the best information he sees and puts it onto one Twitter feed. I think there is some value in that service. The issue is when he takes information, strips out the context, and presents it as something other than it is. So the straw that broke the camel's back this past week was when he tweeted that Mark Davis was expecting a child with his 26-year-old girlfriend at the age of 70. And where he got this from was a woman that Mark Davis was seated next to last year on a Monday Night Football broadcast, announced that she was pregnant. She's a 26-year-old model. The only time that Mark Davis and this woman had been seeing each other was in one screenshot from one Monday Night Football broadcast last year. But what Dove did was took that screenshot, put a picture of this attractive young 26-year-old on the screen and said, 70-year-old Mark Davis, 26-year-old girlfriend is expecting her baby. Congrats to the expecting couple or something like that. So he creates this narrative out of whole cloth that is just patently not true. And then he later had to delete this post after it went viral, reaching millions of people. This model herself had to release a statement that said, I'm not dating Mark Davis. I've only ever sat next to him once and met him one time. But that's the sort of content manipulation that aggregators like Dove, there are several others on Twitter, will do. And like you said, there's now a financial benefit for them to do that and for them to drive a bunch of engagement because Twitter will now pay you based on how many people see a tweet. So, maybe a tweet that gets 15 million people will make you a couple $100, something like that. So Dove has been doing this for a couple years, amassed a following of close to 300,000 people. But around the Super Bowl last year, people noticed a tone shift in his post. It seemed like he was doing less of the reporting that he could maybe talk himself into, convince himself that he was doing. And he started doing more of this engagement baiting, posting purposely inflammatory things on Twitter in hopes of, reaching millions of people and then, of course, cashing out. And that tone shift people lined up with, a lot of credit to AJ Perez here from Office Sports you mentioned. He looked back through a cryptocurrency wallet that was linked to Dove's Twitter. And he noticed that 8 days after the Super Bowl, there was a $21,000 crypto deposit made to this wallet. And then that's when the content started shifting. And he did some really good reporting, reaching out to other aggregators on Twitter and other prominent sports media figures on Twitter. And apparently Dove had been shopping around this account for a price point of around $75,000. People were countering. He didn't really think he could get that much money. And we think he ended up selling it for around $21,000. So now the question is, who's running this account? AJ Perez just released an article this week, actually, who he identified some guy in Florida who's apparently some internet prankster. The story kind of dies out from here. But the interesting part of it, which you mentioned, is that it's actually against Twitter terms of service to sell an account. And so if Twitter ever sniffed out the story to its logical conclusion, you could see one of the biggest aggregators online getting banned, and he's probably clearing something like six figures every year just by taking other people's reporting and putting it on his own Twitter feed. It's fascinating. It's total inside baseball, but it shows you where our sports media landscape is today, frankly.
Well, I feel like doing all this work on my own is kind of stupid. I mean, look, I followed it mostly because when I do some production, he has highlights, so I would like to grab the audio from the highlights, for things, and so that's why I was following him. So yeah, I mean, he's a lot to dress it up. So I'm not, but again, he doesn't have to call anybody, run down anything. He just has to, go to TweetDeck and, have his little feed there. So the last thing I want to talk about, and usually this is what I would lead off with, but we've talked about it so much over the last week, but very curious your thoughts on House versus NCAA and how this plays out now that we're, 10 days or so out of the agreement, almost 2 weeks, I guess, of this happening. It still hasn't been approved yet by the judge. That's the next hurdle it has to cross. But where do you see that going? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, like you mentioned, you probably talked about it a lot with your audience. I see this as opening a can of worms that will never be closed to the NCAA. Frankly, I think that the NCAA's time of existence is now on the clock. So before these three cases came to settlement, which is what happened last week, and we obviously talk about the revenue sharing that can now happen with athletes, there were a lot of cases that were pending, one primarily in Dartmouth that I was keeping my eye on, where athletes were attempting to unionize. And the logic they were using was that, okay, if they're getting paid to play, they should also be able to have things like health benefits. They should be getting paid overtime. Essentially, they should be W-2 employees because they're now getting paid to play their sport through NIL. What I think happens now is that this decision for universities to directly pay athletes only bolsters those claims that athletes should be considered full-time employees at their universities. And when athletes are considered full-time universities at their employees, the NCAA's sole reason to exist, which is to protect amateurism in college sports, ceases to exist. And so what I think is really interesting now are what are the second order effects of this decision? So obviously you'll have athletes making a bunch of money. You'll probably see scholarships being fully funded across sports. You might even see sports getting cut that are non-revenue driving. I think those are all really interesting second order effects. But what I'm keeping my eye on are these unionization efforts, primarily the one with the Dartmouth men's basketball team, to see if their case now has greater standing because athletes will be getting paid directly through the universities. I think it's really interesting. And I think it's a can of worms that the NCAA will never be able to put back into the can. And that might be their inevitable demise. Allowing athletes to now get paid through the settlement, I think will only pave the way for athlete unionization, for this 22% of revenue sharing getting bumped up to 50% like we see at professional sports leagues. I just think we're on the fast track to having college sports look like professional sports. And I'll be honest, Paul, I don't hate that. I mean, I don't hate the fact that if we're okay making the logical jump from athletes should get some cut of revenue, why should we stop at 22%? Why shouldn't it be 50%? Why shouldn't athletes have collective bargaining power just like professional athletes do? We're on the fast track to that point.
Yeah, the NCAA's biggest problem is they don't understand that time always moves forward, and they're trying to pause it at the very least, and that also has failed. So I mean, I recommend if you didn't read it yet today, I talked about it at the top of our show. Joe Moglia, who is Coastal Carolina, he's been a CEO and a coach and all these things. He has a great op-ed in the Indy Star today about all this and the future of it, and how this is, again, this house is not a solution for anything. It's just it's a Band-Aid for the time being, so they can get a little time to figure this out. But they're going to have to change almost everything they do within the next decade.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, this is the antiquated structure of the NCAA. They just keep trying to Band-Aid over their issues. NIL was a Band-Aid. This house settlement is a Band-Aid. And I think they're going to realize they're going to have to fix this system properly before it's too late.
Yeah, eventually you need stitches. Eventually you can't just keep wrapping it. You need stitches for sure. Tyler, I love what you do. People can follow him at Tyler M. Webb. It's tylerwebb.co, right? Is the website?
Yeah, that's correct. I encourage people to go subscribe to my newsletter. I release these sports business stories, 3 of the best every week, every Friday. I have a new one dropping this Friday, and make sure to follow me on Twitter at Tyler M. Webb.
There you go. Thank you so much for hopping on, man. We'll talk again in the future.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, Tyler Webb there. I know there was a lot of different stories that we went over, but we talk a lot about sports business, and I like to look at, even though it's not college football particularly, I think it's important to hear all these things from the realm of sports, because everything finds its way together in the spider web, right?
Yeah.
It all comes together at some point where this happened in the NFL, this is going to happen in college football, this is how these things go. So I'd like us to have an informed audience, and I think Tyler did a fantastic job there. I was very interested in that conversation, and if we had, I could have him for 3 hours, honestly.
No, he was good, and I think I like how he kind of channeled what I missed it, which we were talking about with Joe Malaglia, because he brings up some really good points, dude. Like, they essentially are dead. Like, they should have let the NCAA go away, because right now all you're going to do, it's like the NCAA is there. But they're trying to pass the power to Greg Sankey and them. Like, you should have just let it die completely, just chalked up your losses for a couple of years, and then built something new around it and figured it out, because this is just a sinking ship once again with more junk that's been added to it.
Yeah. Do you know what the NCAA reminds me of right now? Do you remember Cash for Clunkers?
Yes, the cars. Yeah.
Like, the government had Cash for Clunkers, and it's one of those things that's like, it sounds like a good idea, and maybe it was in certain regards a good idea, but are you really helping? Like, is it going to help in the longer term, or is this a Band-Aid on something that you really need to get a better handle on?
Yeah.
That to me is what it was. Like, it might have been a good, and I'm not trying to, again, take a side politically. Like, I know the president who did that, and I know a lot of you probably don't like him, but I'm not even into that. I don't really know, because I'm not in the industry, if that helped that much.
Right.
Or if it just helped, if it was just a Band-Aid to stave off, a crisis, but there still could be something else looming there.
Garrett, to follow up, did you get the? I'll just read
No,
it.
I have it. That
You have it. Yeah. So since I just said it, of course they do this as I'm talking about it, but Kansas does have a new transfer. Shaquille Moore from Mississippi State, 6'1" senior, averaged 7.9 points per game this season. This was in the works anyway. Obviously, it wasn't like, El Marco Jackson got hurt a couple days ago, and then today they called up Shaquille Moore and were like, hey, man, you want to go to Kansas? But I would say this is more of probably the Riley Kugel replacement.
Well, see, that's what I was going to ask. Was it Kugel or was it going to be Johnny Furphy?
Yeah, or Furphy they weren't counting on anyway.
Okay,
the Furphy replacement was Rylan Griffin.
Okay,
that's kind of I think where that was. So I mean they had already kind of replaced Furphy, and if they had gotten Furphy back, this would not even be close to as big of a problem. Although El Marco Jackson was going to be a key part of that rotation, he was last year, and even they got some transfers in, he was still going to be part of it. So now Shaquille Moore probably steps in. They're going to need more out of him than they expected, but he is a senior, so I don't think that should be too shocking. But I do wonder if they go now get a second transfer that maybe they weren't going to get because El Marco Jackson won't be there.
I mean,
what their scholarship numbers are at, that would allow them to do that.
Yeah, I bet they would. I mean, I definitely see them kind of playing it over safe this year. I mean, I just get as many bodies as you can to avoid everything, especially now, dude, like you're bringing Arizona in, the Big 12 is going to get even deeper. You're going to definitely need the bodies night in and night out. So yeah, I definitely think they're going to address it and add some more people. I don't know what their numbers are, but definitely grab one or two more if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So, MC Gusto wants to talk about Big 12 college baseball. I will say this, more teams in the supers than I thought would be, although two less teams than I thought. Not the two I thought would be in there.
This is Kansas State and West Virginia, right?
Kansas State and West Virginia. Yeah. I thought it was going to be Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. That's who I picked.
Oklahoma State was really cooking there for a minute too.
Yeah. But Florida woke up. And then Kansas State, took it to Dave Van Horn in Arkansas. I mean, so
love to see that.
I mean, if MC Gusto really wants to talk about it, he's a UCF fan. I can talk about it. I mean, I can talk about it. If he wants me to talk about it, I can talk about it.
Yeah, how them Noles doing?
No, they're 8-1 odds.
Okay.
Right now to win the whole thing.
Feeling good?
I feel as good as I have in years.
My man.
But here's the thing. Texas A&M exists and Tennessee exists.
Texas A&M's really good.
Yeah. And so I think your best bet of beating Texas A&M is to get them away from Blue Belt.
Yes.
Blue Belt.
You're going to have to get them out of there.
So going to Omaha is like the kryptonite maybe. But, man, they're both really good. Steven was in here earlier. And he's trying to be happy for Jim Schlossnagle, but
there's no way.
No, he's like, I'm trying to look the other way. You can't. Especially if he wins the first one. TCU had a really good shot a couple times under Schloss, which is why he has the job at A&M.
Exactly.
They didn't get over the finish line. I do remember being mad at Steven because TCU eliminated FSU. I believe that was the last time FSU was in Omaha, and we were working together at the radio station at the time and being like, I hate you. Yep. I just don't want to look at you. I can't even, this is new to you. You're young. You don't have the pain that I have. You don't have the pain that I have. And I'm warning all of you, everyone listening, watching. If Florida State wins the College World Series, I will be unbleeping bearable.
Oh, I know.
I'm not really I'm not that guy, but I've wanted this. I want this because I've experienced football. So I'd be fired up about football. You know that.
Yeah.
And I want that more than anything. But I've not experienced this, and they've been so close. If they actually do win at any point, I am going to be overjoyed to a point I can't even fathom.
Well, I remember when they were looking at the hire and they were talking about getting Link, and you were like, dude, we're going to Notre Dame. We're getting him. He's coming back. He's going to win here. And then if it does happen, with this being the Mike Martin, everything, this would be the perfect situation for him to do it.
It's I think it's one of the best stories of the thing.
Right. Just come together.
The best story is Evansville.
No, Evansville's cold. I like this.
Let's go, Evansville.
Yes.
Say they knock off Tennessee.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really hope so.
Yeah. Although I will tell you, UCF UCF was really, really good.
They were.
And they're going to be in the Big 12.
They're going to run it.
They're going to run it in baseball a lot, mostly because Florida is a fantastic baseball state. Like it's one of the things where they do it in high school really, really well.
They do.
We'll talk about high school sports in Florida again in a second. They don't do a lot of things the way that they should.
No.
I think they do need to come over here and take some notes.
I think most people do. Louisiana's done that. And I think that's why you see Louisiana grow the way they have.
The UIL does some things like that are minorly annoying, but for the most part,
it's for the best, the most part.
But for the most part, I think they have it like it's one of the more well-run state organizations. Like they know what they're doing. There are some things they do that are stupid and annoying, and they should pay more attention to. But it's nitpicky compared to like when I hear coaches complain here. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give you a job at Miami Northwestern, and even though you'll have the best talent in the world, you fight them on who you're playing in the playoffs.
Dude, like, think about this. Like, what was it, 2 years ago when the coach from IMG left IMG to go to Del Valley, like right outside of Austin. Like, and then he's been able to build that up. So, yeah, I mean, it makes more sense to come and get in the structure that you have in Texas. But, yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Kim Coulter disagrees with me. Now, look, Tech is always probably going to be good in baseball, especially they've got one of the better baseball NIL structures as that comes. And, look.
Arizona's pretty good at baseball, too.
Yeah, full scholarships for baseball when that comes out. Like you see it, like the schools in the Big 12 that benefit the most to me will be Oklahoma State, UCF, Tech, and Arizona, and probably Arizona State because they have had so much love and care for with TCU, love and care for baseball for so long.
Yeah,
like that's one of the things that will probably work out well. You know, the problem is that like, you're gonna get full scholarships and LSU has full scholarships now.
Yeah, and then you got the other money on top.
That's the thing that that's just one of the things that's. So they have all the benefits now.
Right,
Great.
Yeah. Well, see, like this year though, you could I think you could make an argument for like Georgia. Georgia went out and bought a bunch of players, and then like Evansville's still there, but they're gone. So like baseball is one of those weird things where you definitely need the rosters and you need the pieces, but it doesn't always work out like other sports would in that facet.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Arizona State has a fantastic baseball history. I know that they're not where they used to be right now, but I mean, they care. Like that's kind of the one sport they've done
pretty
the
well
most, the most over their time. When we come back, our good friend Evan Miakawa joins the show, and we'll talk about transfers. And look, we'll talk about El Marco Jackson and what that means. Also, there's some pretty big ones still out there, most namely Coleman Hawkins back out of the draft and into the transfer portal. I know he was taking a visit to Louisville. He is yet to commit. We'll talk about that next with Evan Miakawa. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right. Day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you. Red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund. and BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Our good friend Evan Miakawa joins us now, and I'm sad we didn't do this on video because I love his coffee wall.
Very nice.
Yeah, I need to hook Evan up. We've got a couple of coffee sponsors. I need to hook Evan up with some, with some coffee since he's a fan. But Evan Miakawa joins us now, and Evan, I'll tell you, so early in the morning, I got up early this morning, and I was very worried about this show because I had nothing booked yet. And within a matter of like an hour, I got all 4 of our guests, and it's turned out to be one of the easier ones because I am flying solo this week without the smoke. So it's sometimes a little harder to do those, and I'm so glad that you were available because it does seem like a slow time when it comes to basketball news, but college basketball wise, the portal is still open. There are still, at least as far as people making their decisions, people can't go in, but they can make their decisions. The draft, camps are over and people have made their decisions on coming and going. And you had the rankings up of teams, but first off, I want to talk about a couple things that are kind of in the water right now, namely Coleman Hawkins, who's your second ranked transfer. Where do you think his arrow is pointing?
That's a great question. I love Coleman Hawkins. I have him ranked as the second best transfer in the entire country out of all the players who've entered the portal. I think, he can be a little erratic at times, but his skill set is undeniable and he can do a lot on both ends of the court. There's a lot of different rumors floating around. Some of them have been sort of juiced up by Coleman himself in terms of being linked with different schools. He's definitely not shied away from playing around a little bit with different fan bases. So I don't necessarily have a huge indication of where he's most likely to go, but I do really like the link with Louisville. If Pat Kelsey can get him at Louisville, I've already been extremely impressed with the work that he's done in the portal, having to completely restructure his entire roster from scratch. But getting Coleman Hawkins, that would just put an entirely different cast on their projection for next year, because Coleman is going to be one of the top players in the country next season on my website in the preseason, and hopefully will kind of play at a close to All-American level for whatever team he joins. And so if he joins Louisville, I would love that for them. The rumors have been circulating the last day or two about, him visiting there. I got a question from Louisville a couple days before that, directly from their coaching staff, asking, hey, if we got Coleman Hawkins, would that move us to the number 1 ranked transfer class on your website? So they've certainly been looking forward to this for a while and really hoping that they can get him to come and play for the Cards.
Well, they have 12 guys coming in already, right? That you had, and that you on your list of quality over quantity. Well, they kind of they're the ones who hit quantity and quality together, them in Kentucky, right?
Yes, that's correct. It is hard in this day and age to completely rebuild an entire roster from scratch and have all the guys that you're bringing in be really high quality. And so I really like the fact that Louisville has gotten guys who are both going to fill up their roster, and none of them are any slouches. I really like all of them at the high major level. I think they're going to have a lot of depth. Certainly Colin Hawkins would be the best of the bunch by a good distance there, but they've already got a good setup behind him, sort of regardless of whether he comes or goes somewhere else.
Elmarko Jackson injured here recently. He'll be out for the season for Kansas. They brought in a transfer today from Mississippi State in Shaquille Moore. So he steps into that backup role, and he's a senior, and that's, going to be valuable to them. Where do you rank Kansas's class in that? I noticed they're not in the quantity over quality rankings that you had.
Yeah, right now I have their incoming transfer class without the signing of Shaquille Moore as top 20 in the country, which for some people might be a little bit low. My system is not quite as high on guys like Zeke Mayo, for example, as some other national outlets have them. I really like Rylan Griffin a lot, the wing from Alabama. I think he's going to be a huge piece for them. So with the addition of Moore, once I recalculate that, I certainly think that'll move them into the top 15. Maybe perennially the top 10. I think there's an argument some people are making the argument that Kansas has or is close to having a top 5 or potentially even the best transfer class. I definitely wouldn't go that far based on what the numbers say, but it's certainly been some good work for them as typically is the case for Bill Self teams. I think the loss of Elmarko Jackson, to me, that doesn't necessarily change my outlook for them a whole lot in terms of where they're likely to land, but I certainly do think it takes away a lot of the potential of this team. I think a trend that we've seen for Bill Self teams the last several years is veteran leadership and then one or two young guys who really, sort of shine or outperform expectations in a given year. And as the season goes along, really add an extra punch. You look at Johnny Furphy last year. He was an example of a freshman who kind of started out slow and ended up being a big piece for them. So they've had players like that in the past. I think Elmarko Jackson was a little underwhelming his freshman year. If he had been healthy this upcoming season, I really liked the idea of him kind of coming out of nowhere and being a really, really important piece for them. So I certainly think it hurts them a little bit not having him. I'm not super concerned about their floor per se, but certainly their high-end ceiling potential for where the season could go is hurt a little bit by the fact that he's going to miss the year.
You have at the top of your quality over quantity, you have St. John's, and Rick Pitino has been tasked with making that program relevant again. And it's been a long time since they have been, and they're in New York City, which is supposedly the basketball mecca, and not been winning titles. Look, Villanova can do it in Philly. St. John's can absolutely do it in New York. What have you liked about their class and the guys that they have brought in? And they are spending a lot of NIL money.
Yeah, they definitely are. I think the thing I love about what St. John's has done for the portal is Rick Pitino's recognized that in his second year there, they need to add pieces to the portal, but it needs to be the right pieces. And so when you look at the guys they've brought in 4 transfers, and 2 in particular, Kadari Richmond, who I have ranked as the best player in the entire portal, and then Davon Smith, who's a guard coming from Utah, who I have ranked in the top 15 of all players in the portal. I think both those guys are really high-quality adds. I'm super intrigued to see what that backcourt looks like because you can make an argument that Kadari Richmond and Davon Smith sort of play the same position. So I'm kind of curious to see how they play off the ball with each other. But certainly Rick Pitino knows what he's doing coaching-wise, so he'll figure it out. But a lot of what St. John's has done is getting the right 4 guys, but then also being really high quality, specifically with those 2 in particular sort of leading the way. I'm really impressed with what they're doing. And I think in this day and age, having some guys who can sort of add to your team from the portal, but not having to totally rely on a complete rebuild through the portal, but having guys return to your team and having potentially some freshman talent coming in as well, sort of the mix of all 3 is really important. And I think St. John's is kind of trying to chase that formula this offseason.
A couple other guys I want to ask you about. Woogla Poplar from Miami is going to Villanova, so that's a boon for them. And Jameer Watkins, who is visiting St. John's in Michigan. He's an FSU guy. Still a chance he could go back to FSU. Also, maybe going to visit K-State and Cincinnati as well. What do you think about those 2?
Yeah, Woogla Poplar certainly was a good player for Miami. It's good for Villanova to get him. I don't have him ranked as high as other people do. My advanced metrics have him, I think, outside the top 100 players in the portal, whereas based on his stat line, some other people regard him as being better. But certainly I think he's going to be a useful piece for Villanova. Jameer Watkins, I have as one of the top, besides Coleman Hawkins, arguably the best name left in the portal, out there with, Arthur Kaluma from Kansas State is in the mix too. But I certainly think Jameer Watkins is one of the, most coveted pieces in the portal. And I think the really interesting part about the transfer portal era, specifically the way that this offseason, the last offseason have worked out, is that players who wait to commit late in the portal cycle, so toward the end of May, beginning of June, they demand such a higher dollar amount from NIL compared to if they were to commit to a school in, early April or mid-April, for example, just because teams realize, hey, we're still one piece, we're still two pieces short. Who's left in the portal who I can get? And the options are so much more scarce that they're willing to throw massive amounts of cash at really any good player who's left, even if they don't actually stack up that well compared to other players who've already committed to other teams. So I think the interesting part about like a Jameer Watkins, for example, is if he had committed to wherever in early April, we wouldn't really be talking about him that much. But because he's one of the only good names left, it's suddenly a huge conversation, and he's going to be paid like an elite player in college basketball, more so than some other players who, at least from a numbers perspective, would be evaluated higher than him. So it's just fascinating. I think from player perspective, the strategy of waiting this long in the portal has turned out to be a good decision, at least from a money-making perspective, for some of these sort of late portal decisions.
Bracky Cat on the chat is a huge Kansas State fan, and Jerome Tang has been doing some work. And the last time we had you on, we talked about Baylor, so I don't really have to ask about them again. I know how you feel about their class, but Kansas State in particular, if you had just told me they could have two of the three of Doug McDaniel, Max Jones, and Akor, I would have said, all right, well, he didn't really have to do much more, but, picked up the center from Kentucky and has really kind of rebuilt the depth there. What do you think about their class?
Yeah, I'm certainly impressed with what he's done. I think last year was a little bit of a step back for the program, but I think Jerome Tang has always been someone who has really been optimistic about getting big guys in the portal, big names to recruiting, and, causing a splash in the Big 12. Doug McDaniel was one of the earliest names in the transfer portal and one of the earliest commits in the portal to Kansas State. I have been ranked in the top 25 amongst all players in the portal. And, Michigan's season started out well and then sort of went downhill. But I think all season long, from a underlying metrics perspective, Doug McDaniel has a lot of value to wherever he was going to go. And certainly Jerome Tang has had success the last several seasons with, smaller point guards running the show and just being dynamos on offense. So I'm certainly optimistic that Doug McDaniel can kind of do that for Kansas State. So certainly him headlining that class, but, getting Onyenso through the portal, I think has been a much needed add for them as well, adding some length, some athleticism kind of on the interior of that lineup there. So impressed with what Jerome Tang's doing for sure.
And finally, Texas Tech, JT Toppin kind of put them over the top. That was maybe as perfect a transfer fit as I think I've ever seen. He's out after, he's in the portal after a year, jumps in, stays in West Texas, goes to Tech, and that should really help them, especially since they've kind of had to reform their roster a little bit. What do you think about their class?
Oh, I love their class. I have them ranked top 10 in the country in terms of incoming transfer class. And just in terms of the quality of guys that they're bringing in, they're all really high level. 3 of their guys coming in are top 75 transfers. I have JT Toppin as a top 5 transfer in the entire country. He's one of the most exciting freshmen in the country last year, racking up, conference, freshman of the year honors in the Mountain West. He was extremely efficient as a forward. He averaged, basically almost a double-double. Super efficient. So I think he's a great add for Texas Tech, really fits what he's doing. And, given his elite high school recruiting profile as well, I think he can hit even another level next year. So I think he's going to be a huge add both offensively and defensively for them. So definitely he's the headliner of that class. But all things considered, they've done really good work.
All right, Evan, I know you have to go in a second, but we got one more question from the chat from Cuz, and he wants to know about West Virginia.
All right, let's pull up what West Virginia has done here. I think it certainly helps that, they have connections, from Drake with Coach DeVries coming in and bringing in Tucker DeVries certainly makes a big difference. I have West Virginia's class ranked inside the top 15 in the country. I also have them 15th in the country in terms of overall transfer activity rank, which takes into account your incoming players minus your departing players, basically saying, did you make your team better through the portal or did you get worse? So West Virginia certainly is in the high positive category when it comes to that. I love Tucker DeVries. I think he's going to be a star. I'm really excited to see him playing in the Big 12. But they've also added a lot of other good players as well. They've got 2 commits coming from Illinois. Sincere Harris was you're kind of a role player for Illinois, but I've been sort of paying attention to him in his first 2 seasons at Illinois, just because I think he's a very good off-the-ball role player who does a lot sort of on the intangibles level, and that's definitely captured in terms of the stats that quantify how he impacts team performance. So I really like him as an addition. And overall, they've added 7 or 8 players to the portal. That's certainly hard to do, but they've added a lot of good quality as well as just kind of building their roster there.
Evan, thank you so much. I know that you got something going on. Thanks for hopping on with me today. Always love talking hoops with you, man. And then go to evanmiakawa.com. It's such an awesome site. So much information. And you get 3 tiers of subscription, so you can look at the free stuff, $20, $30, all a great deal, especially if you're a basketball junkie. Evan does a great job. Have a great one, Evan. We'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good, Paul. Thanks.
There you go. Evan Miakawa with us here on 365 Sports. And Gary, we'll keep it here and go through some of the stuff we have not gotten to yet. But we got through a good chunk of the Big 12. There's 16 teams. It's hard, man. It's hard. We're going to have to I may just need to get Evan and pre-record 4 segments of 4.
You're going to have to break it down that.
4 segments of 4. We'll just do that and play that throughout as we get into the season. Here's your 4, this one's Monday, this one's Tuesday, this one's Wednesday and Thursday, the 4 teams. So that would be great. So, but all right, let's go back in. So Garrett, I said this yesterday and now people are not going to believe me.
Okay.
But I said I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Correct.
And I don't know if this is necessarily a conspiracy or just a marketing ploy, but ESPN, and this is a graphic that On3 made based on their FPI. So this is from ESPN via On3. Oh, this is the NIL survey.
My bad. I'm trying to figure out which.
Hardest schedules is the one I want.
Okay.
I want the hardest schedules. We haven't gotten to that one yet.
Cool.
Okay, here are the hardest schedules according to ESPN. And
seems like one conference for some reason.
Look, I'm telling you, Florida has the hardest schedule that's ever been created by man.
They do.
As a matter of fact, none of these other teams should even be on this list with Florida. It's insulting to Florida.
It really is
these poor, pathetic Florida Gators, who have the toughest schedule ever created, and they only made 3 of those games, or 4, right?
Yeah.
They only picked 4 of them. One that was going to be every year in Florida State, and then the 3 other rotating ones are the UCF and the Miami and their FCS game, which is the only one they will be for sure favored in.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be favored in some of the others, but only one for sure they'll be favored in. And it is that one. I'm not... I think they'll be favored against UCF. I don't personally believe they should be. I think
UCF can beat them.
I think UCF
will beat them.
Yeah,
honestly.
I think UCF can and will beat them. But we'll see. Maybe they're better than we think. But things just have not gone their way. And they're getting drubbed in recruiting. They're getting kind of they seem to always kind of grab someone that's all right in the transfer portal, but they're not.
They're banking on the future. They're really trying to me, when I look at this Florida team and the roster and everything that's been put together, it's like this is a Band-Aid. Let's just get through this season.
Let's tread water for DJ Lagway.
Let's tread water for DJ Lagway, turn it over, and try to ride out from there, because this whole process has been this whole Billy Napier tenure it's been rocky to say the least.
Yes.
And
you're supposed to coach the Gators, not fight actual alligators.
Correct.
That feels like that's what he's doing here. And it's been so rocky for them in his very short tenure so far. But you see the other schools on here: Mississippi State, Georgia, Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas. Okay, look, I'm not going to dive into each of these schedules individually.
No,
I'm not going to do this. But this is ESPN's FPI.
Absolutely.
They're a football power index rating. And yes, like, is it wrong of me to think that this is a little bit more of the propaganda?
No, hell no. After last year, everything has been thrown out the window with the ESPN speculation smokescreens. Like, it's all out in the open now, and we have peep game.
Yeah. So 9 out of the 10 hardest schedules in the country are in one league.
I'm not buying it.
Are in one league. I know it's a great league. But come on. Come on.
All this is right here. When you see stuff like this, it's this flexing. Like we talk about it every year. The rankings come out, and it's all set up to flex and make sure that when one of these teams gets beat by the other one, it's replaced, and it's all in the same rotation. And you're going to try to get as many into the top 12 as possible, and you put out crap like this. And the more you see it, the more smoke you put behind it, people are naturally going to get brainwashed into believing it. Mm-hmm. And this is why we're in this situation.
Yeah. Take this off. I can't look at it anymore. I can't look.
Be gone.
It's be gone. It's so irritating.
It really
so
is.
Irritating.
It's frustrating.
Like, and look, I'm not, like, I don't want to dog on the SEC. It's a great conference. There's great teams in it. I can't wait to watch it. But I don't like propaganda. I don't like it. I like reality. Mm-hmm. But look, we're all victims of it.
Yeah.
How many, shitty fast food things have you tried because they look good on a commercial?
That's all it is. It's selling you, get you in there, and yeah.
Like, oh yeah, no, sure, Arby's has a fish sandwich. I'll try it. No.
I love Arby's, but I do no fish sandwich. That's too far, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing that, like, that's what I kind of feel like when I'm fed this stuff. Like, we had a very, like, nearly business catastrophic experience with Spirit Airlines one time. I've never been back on them since, and I never will. And I have a friend who's a pilot for them. Great guy, great pilot. It's not his fault. But they lost the luggage of the whole plane, save for 3 bags. My bag, Smokey's golf clubs, and his luggage. All of Craig's luggage and all of our equipment when we went to California for Cowboys training camp. If not for the goodness of the good people at the ticket and 105.3 The Fan, we would not have been on air. I mean, again, for 5 days before they got our luggage back, because our luggage all went to Miami, which is, as you know, opposite of Los Angeles.
A little bit.
Yeah. So, and I see, like, anytime they've made me so bitter towards, like, big companies and, like, hey, we care and this is great, that every time I see, like, anything that they're like, hey, fly Spirit, I'm like, no. Yeah, it was, you had to fill out the form in triplicate like it was 1986. You had to, like, you gave them.
Like it's a carbon copy
you
type
got to,
thing?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
my God.
Well, what the hell, man?
Yeah,
like, if I lose my bag on any airline, they have a barcode. I hand it to them. They go, boop, boop.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, shoot, it's in Denver. All right, we'll get it to you. And it's not smooth for everybody. But for Spirit, they intentionally make it hard, and you call up a number to see if they've got your bags every day. And the attitude I got from the guy that was running is like, bro, what are you so upset about? Like, what do you mean? And actually, that is how I met John Machota.
Because you lost his...
Because he was on the same flight.
Oh, okay.
So Machota's on the same flight. And when they delivered our bags, and I had met him, like, kind of in passing.
Yeah.
But when they delivered our bags, they brought his bag to my room.
Oh, okay.
So I had to, like, because he was in the same hotel. So I had to go and find him. And then, I was wearing an FSU shirt, and we're like, oh, hey, we're cool now. Yeah. We, as a matter of fact, Machota got our tickets to the FSU SMU game the other day.
Thank you, Spirit Airlines, for John Machota.
So thank you, Spirit Airlines, for that, for now a very close friend of mine. But yeah, I just couldn't, that's my big company suck for the day. All right, Garrett, let's pull up this. You sent me this, the NIL survey.
Boom.
The NIL survey that you sent. It was an anonymous survey that On3.com did, and the majority of desired financial packages range between $200,000 and $600,000, with the median being $400,000 a year. 54% said they would take less NIL for the right fit,
And that number needs to go up, kids. That needs to go up because, $600,000 is great. But again, it can last you a good long while, but you should also go to the place that's best for you.
My thing too is like, okay, if you go somewhere to the school you want to go to and you take less money in college, if you're good enough to actually be a professional, it doesn't matter where you're going 9 times out of 10, you're going to find a way to get there and you're going to find a way to be successful. And in the long run, you can make up the money that you would be missing out. Like if it was a couple $100,000, you're going to make that up in your first NFL contract if you're a player like that anyway. So to me, it's so simple. All of this is so simple. You do what's the best fit for you. You find the right situation. You put your needs and priorities first, and you let everything play out in the end instead of trying to be swayed by bagmen or follow your friends from a 7-on-7 team just because. I think that's kind of what's played into this whole mess we've seen with the transfer portal is people trying to go in situations where they've been pulled or towed or thrown some money, and that just isn't the case. Where if you just made the right decision for yourself in the beginning, despite the money that you might be losing out on, you can make it up in the long run and be set up better in the future.
Only 5 participants had an offer over $1 million, which again,
that's about right.
I think that the $1 million probably comes once you're already there and already good.
And I would say probably 3 of them are probably quarterbest at least.
Yes. If one of them maybe was
like
Walter Nolan.
Yeah.
But biggest NIL concerns, people lying to me, saying numbers just to get me to commit, being scammed into a bad situation, and Jaden Rashada, which are really all the same thing.
It really is.
It's really all 3 are the same thing there.
I love how they just put the Jaden Rashada on there. Just point blank. We're not going to beat around the bush.
Jaden Rashada. That's going to be the name. Like he's going to be that's the name of that situation.
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's called Big Jaden Rashada.
Yep.
And hopefully for him down the line, it means like something like actual football wise, as opposed to getting screwed in an NIL deal. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. Speaking of NIL, yesterday we brought up that Florida high schools have passed, like the FHSAA passed that you can have NIL for high school athletes. It was described, quote, as a shit show by a coach that Jeremy Crabtree talked to. I'm going to reach out to a couple of my buddies who are coaches down there and just kind of get their thoughts on it and see what they think about it. Because, again, because of their transfer rules and all this is going to be a disaster. It's not official yet. The board is going to meet towards the end of July and vote on this. So it could still maybe not happen, but the Florida State Board of Education must ratify that. So we'll see. I don't know if how that works politically or how they do those things, but it's not 100% yet. But that was step 1. So they don't go into effect immediately. They have to approve them on July 24th. But I also don't think. I think it's just. I mean, I don't care if people get money for things. I just know that there's not a lot of high school athletes that are really worth it.
No, my thing too is I don't know what the payouts are going to be because we've seen them get outrageous in college, over the years as this has progressed. But if I'm a teacher and somebody's paying some punk kid that I'm having to deal with more money than I'm making while they're trying to dismantle everything in my career, that's not going to sit well with me personally.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This is a bigger issue, can of worms type thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Best chances to win each league here, according to ESPN's FPI. So another FPI thing. The only reason this jumped out to me is 2 of the 4 of these I totally agree with. I think Georgia has the best chance to win the SEC. I think FSU right now has the best chance to win the ACC.
That's fair.
I think I think that's the best. I think they're the deepest team right now in the ACC. They have forward momentum. There's less what ifs about them, and their what ifs are I don't think anybody's expecting DJU to be Jordan Travis.
No,
but if he can be close enough Like, if everything be close enough, they're going to win a lot of games because they won a lot of games by a lot last year. So if their defense is the same, if Adam, like, kind of the same, then they're going to win a lot of games. So they've got guys, budding stars. They're a good mix of veterans and young guys. Same with Georgia. Like if they continue on their trajectory, they'll be fine winning the conference. Kansas at 17.4% to win the Big 12 was a bit surprising to me. Even though I do have them, like, if Jalen Daniels is healthy, I think this is a team that's probably playing for the conference title. But I feel more comfortable with Utah and with Arizona and with Kansas State than that. So, it mattered. Like, Kansas State's the one I feel the best about because I do think Avery Johnson's going to be a superstar.
I think for me personally, and I think all this is going to play out in the end, but I'm kind of more. I would be more bullish on UCF in a sense than Kansas. And maybe that's just me because looking at what they have, they're eerily similar. But I don't know. I think it's got to play out. It all comes down really to Daniel's health at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing is if having a backup quarterback in place that could even come close to doing what Jason Bean was able to do in the event that Daniels gets injured.
Yeah. But the one that surprised me the most, and look, Oregon's loaded. Don't get me wrong, but Ohio State?
Yeah.
I mean, that team is loaded. And they're probably second. But I was just a little bit surprised because to me, Ohio State is the scariest team, top to bottom, right now for me, even over Georgia. And Texas.
No, they really are. I mean, the depth they have. My only concern is I'm not really sold on Will Howard like most people are. I need to really see that. I don't really necessarily think he's that much of an upgrade over what they had last year. Personally, I know a lot of people would disagree with that. But like looking, I don't know if this is people looking at Ryan Day and just saying that he's had this many opportunities. He's never been able to win the conference or make a push for really win a championship. But like, you can't really expect Oregon's the same thing with Dan Lanning. Everything he's done. He's been close. So I don't know what that kind of plays into it, but like Ohio State is just so much the depth they have, especially in the trenches. They're familiar with the Big Ten. I just think they're the better pick and the better choice, even though I'm really looking forward to that Ohio State Oregon game.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be great. All the way around. I think it'll be awesome. So, break. That's what we have to do. Yep. I had a brain lock right there. We'll take a break right now. When we come back, Pro Football Focus has a warmer feeling about the Baylor offensive line than I think even Baylor does. Yeah. We'll talk about that. We got a couple different graphics for them on their Big 12 offensive linemen and interior and tackles. I want to talk about that, and I'm not trying to dog Baylor. I'm just wondering how they figured this, given what's going on and how Baylor is still pursuing whatever they could get offensive line-wise that's still out there in the transfer portal. We'll talk about that next. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sick'em365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross with you here. So we wind up the 5 o'clock hour. Today, I do a top 5 on the College Football Hall of Fame players I think should be in. Been on the ballot for too long. Sean Taylor and those guys are getting in.
Yes.
Like, they're not going to languish on the ballot for too long. These guys have maybe been languishing for a little while. So, and yes, there's one homer pick on there.
Should be. I bet I know who it is. I know who it is.
There would have been 2, but I'm gonna save my mission on that guy for another time. I gotta prioritize.
Oh, okay.
I gotta prioritize. I
might have confused myself. All right.
Yeah, I gotta prioritize. There's one that's most important, like priority 1 and priority 2. I can't just selfishly put the whole class in from Tallahassee.
Yeah.
That's not right. But, I did. So, I have to tell you a funny story when we get to the next break.
Okay.
Remind me of that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so Big 12 offensive lineman. This is from Pro Football Focus. And okay. So let's start, with this is the interior OL.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, Omar Agbedian at 89.6. Now, he is a transfer.
Yes.
So he did not play for Baylor last year. Kurt Daniker also didn't play for Baylor last year. And Caden Siraki, he did. He played for Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
He was probably their best overall offensive lineman.
Him or Ebiselli, I think he could make.
Yeah, Ebiselli. So Ebiselli not on the list, though.
No.
On the other list either, I don't believe. Yeah, okay. So he's not on the list. But 3 guys. So Baylor's biggest problem, by far, like, it's not even, maybe defensive line can jump in on this, but their biggest problem is they're big guys, like both sides of the ball. By a long shot, it's the biggest problem. And if this is to be believed, they might have solved their problems. But I just know how they've been reacting to offensive linemen in the portal post-spring, and I don't necessarily feel like they feel that way.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about this one because, like, you're bringing in transfers. This will be you're constantly switching coaches. You've gone through Grimes. You brought in Coach Cap, who ended up going to Bama, and then now you have the coach in here working with these people. So it's hard because, like, the guys that were transferred in, like Kurt Daniker, right? Like, he didn't come here. He came here for Coach Cap, and that, like, he's already gone, so I don't know what you're going to get out of him. He's shown he was good at Ohio, but you got to make the jump up. So I'm not sure about that one. Siraki's still young. Agbedian, the same thing. Like, he showed some promise. But, like, when I look at this list, my concern with this is, all of the talk around the Big 12 coming into this season is Oklahoma State returning every one of their offensive linemen, them being upperclassmen, and the offensive line that's coming back from West Virginia. And I don't see any of them on here. And that kind of – all of these lists have made me kind of question how they're put together.
Matter of fact, only if you go to the other graphic, the tackles, Wyatt Milam and Dalton Cooper are the only two from those schools who made the list.
See, that there's more talent on those lines than is reflected on this list.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of jumped out at me that 4 of the 5 potential starters for Baylor. We don't know really who that. I mean, like
or the rotation.
Kurt Daniker is going to start.
Yeah.
Caden Siraki's probably going to start. Ebaseli's probably going to start.
And then Barrington. I mean, Barrington's probably going to start too.
Yeah, but it wouldn't terribly shock me to see him not start.
Yeah, true.
And they could still, like, if they have a scholarship that pops open, I mean, there's some guys out there that they could look at, and if that, I mean, I don't know. That was surprising me, considering that, again, Oklahoma State had a fantastic offensive line last year. Fantastic. Ollie Gordon's great, but he's only part of that equation. And you put those two things together, his absolutely superior talent with that offensive line, Texas Tech got a couple on here, 3 guys total, which again, they have the 2 best running backs in the league, there, Kansas got some on, but
even Kansas State, Kansas State always has road graders.
Now Kansas State though they lost Cooper Beebe, they lost KT Leviston, they lost another guy. So yeah, I can understand those guys not being on here, but yeah, I'm super surprised. I'm super surprised on the way that they assessed that, because again, if I had to grade total offensive lines, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Kansas, and in Kansas State, guys haven't played, so there's a lot of guys that wouldn't be on the list because that's how they grade it.
Or Utah. There's nobody from Utah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those what's kind of surprises me. Now, Utah did lose their center, who was probably one of their better offensive linemen, to A&M, but even still.
Kyle Whittingham's going to have dudes up there.
Yes. No, I mean, you have to actually swallow a whole piece of gravel to start. That's how you make it. Okay, you've been playing well. Now we just chunked this out of the road. You can have some water, but you got to swallow this piece of gravel. Yeah. You have to swallow and pass it, and then you're officially in. That's how his offensive linemen work. Okay, let's go to the highest paid coordinators. This is offense. We'll do offense first. Okay, who on this list, in your opinion, is overpaid?
Ooh. Chip Kelly, because honestly, since Oregon, his offenses have been mediocre at best, going to Philadelphia and that little stint in the NFL and then going back to UCLA. When he didn't have DTR, DTR did some pretty good things, and they were able to move the ball some, but he never really got the full potential out of them. So that one, and I understand he's going to have the talent, to work with it at Ohio State, but I don't necessarily agree with that one.
I'll tell you the one that stuck out to me just based on performance over a year was Garrett Riley.
That's another good one.
And look, I like Garrett Riley. I like Garrett Riley, but well,
I say he doesn't have the talent. He's working with Klubnik.
Okay, is his talent? I mean, it's probably where. I mean, the TCU team was loaded. But I mean, if Dabo's to be believed, they're not that far off.
I see it, but no, because their talent deficiencies at skill positions, especially the receivers, and they don't have it. So they're going to be good. He's going to have. I just think that to me, I would love to know if somebody honestly got Garrett Riley in a room and asked him, do you regret leaving TCU for this job? I wonder if he thought Dabo would embrace everything. If he knew Dabo was going to be the way he was, if he actually would have took this job and left TCU, that's what I'd be fascinated by personally.
Yeah. I did I do wonder, I think he's going to be a head coach soon. Absolutely, he's going to be a head coach soon. But this was not the move in year one that probably felt like it was going to be.
Do you think that, like, if USC's offense went out and didn't do as well this year, that Lincoln would bring his little brother over if he could, and then they just try to run it with the Trojans?
I don't know. I mean, he's got, what, Cliff right now, right? No, Cliff's
Cliff's
gone.
with Washington.
Cliff's with Washington. So, no, yeah, Cliff's with Washington. So, yeah, maybe. I don't know. But, yeah. Okay.
Will Stein's kind of low. I thought Will Stein would be further up the list.
He's also younger than almost all these guys. So, Charlie Weiss Jr.'s up there. He's very, very young. But, yeah, he's not been on there. Bobby Petrino at 1.5.
About that.
That's a little bit high for – now, look, I don't blame him. I don't blame him for A&M's woes last year.
No, that was not his fault.
It's not his fault. Like, he came in and initially thought, like, oh, I'm going to get to install my offense. And Jimbo's like, you can have one play.
Yeah.
You have one play. Maybe a formation. No, it's not going to be skis. You have one play. You can have half a play.
Yeah,
you can change the name of a play. You can change one word of a play. Just do mine.
Yeah.
Just do mine. Like, that way I don't have to do it. I won't even talk to you. Okay, I'm going to talk to you. I can't make any of these promises. They made me do this. What do you want from me? Shouldn't have banged your secretary. That's why you're here.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So yeah, I think, that's weird. Like, and a lot of these guys are not. Like, Mike Denbrock for Notre Dame, not overpaid.
No.
Like,
God. No.
Especially, he was at LSU.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. Okay, so let's go to the defensive coordinators.
I did not see a defensive on here.
Did you not get that one?
I don't see that one, honestly.
Okay. Well, then, look, here's the thing. Nobody will get to see this, but I have it. Here on this computer that you can't see. All right, here are the highest paid defensive coordinators.
Okay.
Number 1 is Blake Baker at LSU. And, of course, he's just new to that. So, but his defense at Missouri was lethal. So
it was, but I also think that pay has probably benefit from how bad things have been.
$2.5 million. Number 2, Wink Martindale at Michigan. Longtime NFL coach. That's going to be the going rate for him. Defensive genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. Number 3, Pete Golding at Ole Miss. They're paying a lot for assistants and a lot for players. They're going all in.
And he's got a lot to work with. I mean, what he was able to do at Bama was pretty good, but we've seen so many people rotate through Bama and have success. So that's kind of like, was that Bama or was that Pete Golding? So it's going to be, I think this is kind of be like a make or break season for him as far as, do you earn what you're getting paid?
Yeah. Tied at 4 are 4 guys making $2 million a year. Adam Fuller at Florida State, worth every last penny. And as a matter of fact, won 2 games for them at the end of the year, for sure. Glenn Schumann at Georgia, and I think this is probably the last year for Glenn Schumann at Georgia.
Yeah, probably.
I think he'll be in the next wave. Number 4, Al Golden at Notre Dame. So Notre Dame on this list twice as well. Great defensive coordinator, was not as successful as a head coach at the P5 level. Did well at Temple, but he's a guy who knows defense and can coach. Also at $2 million, Danton Lynn at USC, who did well at UCLA, but that $2 million is probably more about going rate and keeping him away from somewhere else and getting him to USC, who's desperate to tackle people.
Yeah, that's one too where they've been so down and so bad. Like, hopefully he can match the money, but he probably got a pay bump because, like you're saying, like, we need to get you in here because you've got to fix this now.
Yeah. Okay. Then these are 3 guys I think are underpaid.
Okay.
And should be higher than some of the others on the list. Tied for 8th at $1.9 million is Phil Parker from Iowa.
Dude, no. He's got to be up there. That's the only good thing about that, the special teams.
Yeah. Phil Parker should be the highest paid assistant in the country.
He really should. But see, I was kind of doing it right. Like, just be.
Yeah. So pay the man.
Exactly.
Like, I know they feel like they're probably paying him almost $2 million. He probably doesn't feel all that distressed. But I'm telling you, if Blake Baker's worth $2.5 million at a place that's going to score you 4 touchdowns on a bad day, then Phil Parker's worth $700 million.
I'm surprised the NFL hadn't come after him at that point.
No, $1 billion a year. That's what he's worth. Yeah. Kirk Ferentz owes all of his last 50 wins to Phil Parker.
He really does. It probably so many more than that.
Yes.
But definitely the last 50 for sure.
Yes. The last 50 wins are Phil Parker's. You don't want to score touchdowns? Fine. This guy's doing it.
Yep.
Jeez. Shameful that he's that
It
far
really
down
is.
the list. I mean, yes, he's in the top 10. $600 billion.
He should be number one given what he's having to deal with up there.
He should have as much money as Elon Musk for what he has to put up with.
Endure, yes.
Yeah.
Day in and day out.
How many points do you think you're going to give me today? Like, you're like, I don't know, 12?
Might get 12, yeah.
All right. I'll hold them to at least 11.
Force like 8 turnovers.
I'll have 7 goal line stands and, a pick 6 for you since you're not going to score.
Yep.
That's what he's going to do. Jim Knowles at $1.9 million at Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, good. They were quite bad before he got there.
Yeah, they were.
Quite bad on defense. And then he got there, and last year they were very, very good.
Pretty good, yeah.
They were very, very good. And then just because of the going rate and what they are, and he's probably going to get a raise soon, Pete Kwiatkowski at Texas is $1.8 million. He is 10th.
It's coming. That's coming for him.
And especially, I think, if he can show a follow-up with losing the defensive lineman that he lost.
And Ford.
And Jalen Ford and a couple of those guys on defense. If he can follow that up with, okay, I plugged in these transfers, these young guys all worked out, I coached them all up, then, yeah, he's going to get a raise.
Yeah.
He's absolutely going to get a raise. So, but, yeah, I was surprised. So, the chat room cracks me up. Nothing has anything to do with anything else. But I
know, it's hilarious.
I was very surprised. I was very surprised at that ranking there.
Yeah.
So, all right, that kind of does it for that. Last thing I'm going to talk about before we go to the top 5, and I saved some time to talk about it because it's something we talked about before, and it's not something that is specific to all of it's specific to one fan base. It's the one that we cover the most in Baylor. Baylor, when McLean Stadium opened, had one of the coolest tailgating scenes in the world. If you ever went and tailgated at Floyd Casey Stadium, it was not great.
No.
It was not great at all. And then, some people like Mike came in and, like, he helped it. Hobby Hal helped it. Like, it helped grow. And it got bigger at Floyd Casey as they got better. And then when the minute they moved over to McLean Stadium, it was fantastic. All up along the river. And
yeah, the sailgating was a big
thing.
Like,
all these things were big. Of course, the team was good, too. Mm-hmm. That helps. That helps everything. But one of the things that's happened since COVID, and it was going to happen before COVID happened, but it intersected with COVID in the worst possible way, in that they brought in, because they were having a staffing issue, they made a deal with Revel XP, who used to be tailgate guys. They made a deal with Revel XP to run their tailgating. That absolutely, combined with COVID, I don't think COVID was out of this, but obviously that's over now, so that's no longer an excuse. But the way that Revel XP set that up and the way that Baylor set it up was not good.
No.
It was not good. The vibe was killed. It was so antiseptic. It felt to me constantly like you walk over there and it was like an after-church picnic. Not tailgating. It just felt like, all right, the youth group's putting on a picnic. Come on by. They're going to play volleyball, and you can have a hot dog and, help raise money for their trip to Haiti. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
Those things are all well and good for when they're that thing, but when they're a massive, FBS conference champion type school, look, the year that Baylor won the conference championship, their tailgating was not good.
Yeah.
There was no atmosphere around it anymore. And it led, bad tailgating leads to a bad stadium atmosphere. And I'm not even just saying about drinking. That to me is a very small part of it. Mm-hmm. If you have a good time and your whole day is built around a game and you're having a good time before the game, in the game and have a good time, all of that. It was not good. I'm not trying to just throw all the garbage on it, but it wasn't. So Baylor announced yesterday that they're going to make some changes to tailgate. They've created some new areas. There's a price reduction from Revel XP because, believe me, what people were paying for and what they were getting was not was not a good thing. And Revel XP does this at a lot of places around the country, a lot of different ways. When I was at UCF, they have like an area that Revel XP has, but they don't run the whole thing. UCF runs its own thing. Their tailgating was absolutely unbelievable. It was great. If you go to A&M, it's great. If you go to Texas, it's a little weird, but it's still a great atmosphere because it's downtown. Yeah. It's not so much tailgating as much
it's
normally
clustered
because it's like all this. It's strange, but Iowa State has great tailgating. West Virginia has great tailgating. Lubbock has great tailgating. Like all these places do. TCU could be a little bit better, but again, theirs is not bad. I mean, it's not bad, and it's not as bad as what Baylor's became, which was a complete revert. And I know that those people weren't here before for Floyd Casey that made this decision. Mm-hmm. But had they experienced that,
then you wouldn't want
they
to go
would
back.
have done. You would have done everything in your power to make it not that, and it actually was a little bit worse, in my opinion. Because at least at Floyd Casey, you had the excuse of it's not that great of a place to be tailgating, but they built that whole area to do that.
Yeah, you weren't having to park in people's yards and stuff.
Yeah, no, you had this great area, this great tailgate that they had, and they just completely. Just the decision was not the right one. Mm-hmm. And the people who make those decisions are really smart, and they've made a lot of really good ones, but this was not good. And it created a lot of consternation among the fans. And Baylor did spend a little time, because they had to or because they didn't agree. Kim Coulter, 498 Super Chat. Okay. When y'all get to Lubbock for my tailgate, we'll show you how it's done. Michael the Heart says all the moonshine that makes Mountaineer tailgating fantastic.
I bet.
Well, yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. So all that being said, it is such an important part of the modern tailgating atmosphere. And that was the Kim Coulter Super Chat noise. I beat it. MC Gusto, UCF tailgating spawns orgies. Fully believe that.
Oh, that's
fully believe that.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, fully believe it. Fully believe it. It was. I've never seen so much beer pong on a campus. Mm-hmm. Usually you have to hide the beer pong outside, just outside the campus. Not at UCF.
It was made for Emory.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it was made for Jack too, but he had a lot of work to do. I saw him get wide-eyed. He got wide-eyed. He was like, "Oh man." Stupid camera.
Why do I got to do this?
Yeah, he went in, but no, it was they were all it was nuts. And I've been to a lot. Garrett, you're an LSU fan. Mm-hmm. I would love to get you to an LSU game.
I would love to go
so that you could experience that. Even though that one's a little dangerous. You're taking your life in your hands a little bit, but
I mean that's kind of going into Louisiana in general.
When I was 19, I went to Clemson, or 18, I went to Clemson, and we had fun. We had walking around. That was great. I had great tailgating at Georgia Tech when I went there.
Really?
And yeah. I mean, granted that they were good back then, and Joe Hamilton was a quarterback. Yeah, they were really good, and it was kind of a different time. But but it's such an important part of the game day atmosphere, and Baylor made a decision that kind of shot them back into their past, which, believe me, none of their fans wanted. And so I think it's good. There have been a couple of yeses on things the last couple weeks that Baylor's finally giving people, because there were a lot of complaints we want a black uniform or something like that. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. Can you do something about tailgating? No, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. Now it appears those things are getting addressed. Now we'll see how it goes. I still think there's probably 2025 changes coming on that, as well as they'll grow out of it. But, being able to renegotiate and redo a deal and make it better for fans hopefully kicks up the notch a bit, because it was upsetting where it had gone.
Well, I think it also goes hand in hand with the football team's got to get better, because it's hard to get excited when the product you're putting out there is apathetic. And it just really is. And Dave Aranda has done a tremendous job of addressing things this offseason. His whole mind shift has focused. So I think the product will be better this year. I don't really know how much better, but it kind of goes hand in hand. If Baylor can come out and show like through the first couple of home games, like a spark of excitement, then it'll carry over into the tailgating as well. And then if they implement these adjustments, it'll be better for everybody in the long run, hopefully going forward.
Yeah, the advice I would give Baylor, like, and I've said it, like, I've said it to people who know, like who would know, who make these decisions, like when asked or even sometimes directly, like, hey, you guys got to, this is not what you can do. Like you've seen it I remember before a couple Texas games where I was like, this is unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. No, they've had some atmospheres.
But what you do is, like, when you have bad tailgating, you look, Notre Dame, also a religious school, but they don't make the fans pray the rosary 100 times before they go in the door. Like, you don't want them that. You want them ready for a football game.
Right.
BYU's a religious school too.
They get down.
Yeah. And they have a blast at their tailgate. It's a big deal. So you don't have to make it solemn. Like, you don't have to make it antiseptic. Like, you can, let it be a football game, and that's what they need to do this year. I hope they do. I mean, clearly they're making steps to try to do that again, and we'll see how it works out. I'm glad that they are. I think they're 2 years too late on it. After that first year of tailgate guys and Revel XP, they should have, like, okay, we're ripping this down and starting from scratch. Like, even if you still have the contract with them, you kind of have to tell them, like, this is what we want to do, and this is what you have to offer. But, paying a bunch of money like they were and getting, 8 chairs and like 2 bags of ice was not.
Yeah, that's not it.
It was not good. It was like bad price pointing, like all this it just didn't work out. So they're making steps to remedy it. Look, I think Mac Rhodes could come on and tell it. Like, he told us that tailgating had to be addressed, and it was going to be addressed. And they did it. These things are not easy to change, and I think there'll probably be more changes in the future. But even Bobby B, who's a Baylor fan, said, it's absolutely, it completely changed. I've a couple of friends who would text me all the time about, like, because they wanted us to talk about it on the show, where they would text me and they would say, like, this, like,
specifics.
Here is 2016 or 2015. I'll say 2015, although the tailgating was still good in 2016. But here's 2015. Here is the same spot now, and it was
night and day.
It was like, oh, here's thousands of people, ghost town.
So, like,
craft fair.
So did the tailgating used to be across the street too, or is that something that just came along because of this?
No. Like, so where we are is a private thing, right? Across the street. That's always been there. So that Sickos has always been there. So that's where our thing is. That's a private thing bought by, people before, and, there's a group that owns it, and then there's a, people that rent out, and businesses like us, we're part of that.
Right.
And then across the street was just like, I've never had a problem getting in and out of a Baylor game ever. Like, even like really packed. Like, they really designed it well. They designed it well. So like, waiting 10 minutes is the most I've ever had to wait to get out of a game. 15 getting in, and like, everything was like, there were cars parked, out in touchdown alley and all that, and tailgates there. And then it became like very few cars, very few buses, very few trailers, very few RVs. And it just, like, it was just so packed. Yeah. It was really good. I mean, so I'm happy that they're doing it. I'm really, really happy they're doing it. I can't wait to see what it is.
I know. I hope it's exciting.
Yeah, I hope it's exciting. I think, and look, they owe it to their players. They owe it to the coaches to create the best atmosphere they can going in, because I do think it's one of those things that sometimes you don't think about. But if the fans are having a good time all the way around, they're going to be in a better mood when they get in the stadium, as opposed to, and look, this was the case for years at Baylor. There was no tailgating. People drive up to Floyd Casey Stadium. If the kickoff was at 11 o'clock, they drive up at 10:30, park their car, go get a Dr. Pepper, sit down, and wait for the bad thing to happen.
Yeah.
As opposed to having a good time, and then whatever happens in the game. I'm having a good day. Yeah, it sucks they lost, or maybe they're going to win, but I can get rowdier. I can be happier if I was happy the 3 hours before.
Correct.
So, just basic psychology there. So, anyway, Kim Coulter's, his parking spot's 50 yards from the stadium. Here's the deal. When we go to that game, we're not even going to ask for parking. We're just going to ride in with Kim.
I know, exactly. Just load up.
Have him take us back after the game. All right. When we come back,
Yeah, this is Paul setting up dates with all his guests. Oh, yeah, you know what? I want to hang out with all these people. I want to go, like, look, I feel...
Mingle with the people, man.
I do. I want to go out, and I like going to games. I love going to games. It's a problem for me in so much that many of my vacations away from sports, I just go to sports.
I do this, like, if I go to a new town, I find the stadium or whatever, and I'm going to it.
Yeah. I mean, like, it would be like if I worked at Ford and I went on vacation, like, you know what? I'd really like to see how those guys at Toyota do things.
Yeah. Just go check it out. Check out the factory.
Yeah. You guys ever been to Fiat? You ever been to Fiat? Let's go to Italy and check them out. Oh, you don't want to go to Milan or anything? No, listen. No. We'll go do all the Rome and all that stuff, but I'm going to Fiat first.
Yes.
You make sure we get to Fiat before I get anywhere else. That's like how it is. When we come back, the top 5. This is 365 Sports.
It's the season to rev up your drive with Alan Samuels with the new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and top-notch service. Looking for a reliable ride to conquer these beautiful spring days? Look no further. The powerful trucks and sleek sedans are the perfect SUV. We've got the perfect vehicle to match your style and budget. Over 300 new vehicles to choose from. Now's the time to make your move. Enjoy special discounts, low financing rates, and incredible incentives. But hurry, these offers won't last forever. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and, you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. It's Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Don't forget, when you go to TexasBeefHouse.com, use our promo code SICK'EM10 for 10% off your first order. And believe me, I believe that order is probably going to be pretty big. They have great stuff there at TexasBeefHouse.com. Top 5 players on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot who should go in now. Look, there's some obvious choices. Out of the 77 that are on the ballot, there's only going to be 12 people selected. So guys like Sean Taylor and Aaron Donald, they're probably going in. But
These are some people who've kind of languished on the ballot for a couple years, and it's time to put them in. So they should be part of the 12 this year. Number 5, and I realize this is a lot of bias, but he's been on for way too long, maybe one of the best college football players of his entire generation, Peter Warrick, dominant at FSU. Absolutely dominant, helped lead them to the 1999 championship game, had that fantastic catch that sealed the win for them in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. Would have probably won the Heisman Trophy if not for a 2-game suspension for the Dillard's incident in 1999. Instead, that went to Ron Dane. But Peter Warrick certainly deserves to be on this list. And before you call me a homer, I did not include Sebastian Janikowski, although that's coming. Number 4, DJ Dozier from Penn State, a 2-sport star in Major League Baseball and the NFL. As you may remember, played baseball a little bit longer, but really, really good athlete and helped Penn State win a national championship. And it's been a long time since that happened in that 12-0 season that Penn State had. He was the driving force behind it, just knocked through people. And look at that old school face mask, the bar right here. My God, I love it. Put this dude in. Number 3, one of the most exciting running backs I've ever seen in college football, Steve Slayton, was fun on the video game, was fun in real life, and they burned a lot of couches in Morgantown because of Steve Slayton touchdowns. He and Pat White were one of the most electric duos at quarterback and running back you could possibly imagine. They were super fun. Touchdown waiting to happen there in that West Virginia offense. Steve Slayton absolutely should go in. Look at Rich Rodriguez trying to contain his excitement to what's about to be a huge touchdown run against Louisville here in this picture. Number 2, Antoine Randall L. at Indiana. Now, most of you remember him as a Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver, even threw a touchdown in one of their Super Bowl wins, but he was an outstanding dual-threat quarterback at Indiana. And look, part of the great thing about the College Football Hall of Fame is not everybody has to be from Florida State and West Virginia and Penn State and Michigan and Ohio State and Notre Dame. Everybody's got a player who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Indiana, an underrepresented school when it comes to football. And look, they don't have the best football history, but you got to make sure you get the guys in who are the players of a program. And Antoine Randall L., probably the greatest football player in the history of the University of Indiana. And he absolutely deserves to be in. He was so much fun to watch and made Indiana football watchable for his years there. And number 1, Kellen Moore, quarterback at Boise State. Why Kellen Moore? Well, look, I know that people may not remember some things about him. I'll tell you the one reason he needs to be in and needs to be in right now. He's the all-time winningest quarterback in the history of FBS college football. All Kellen Moore did at Boise State was win. Highest winning percentage, most total wins, all of that belonged at least now or at some point to Kellen Moore. He is the all-time winningest quarterback. Boise State did nothing but win. He and Jared Zabransky back-to-back helped put Boise State on the map as a team that you do not want to play. And the peak of Chris Peterson's time at Boise State came on the back of Kellen Moore and a lot of those other players. But Kellen Moore, now an NFL coach, as many of you know, and a good one at that, was the reason that Boise State exploded because he was such a damn good college quarterback and just won and won and won and won. Absolutely. And I had the unfortunate experience of watching his NFL career end in front of me at Cowboys training camp when he broke his leg. But he turned out to be a pretty damn good coach, and he's going to continue to do that throughout his career. Kellen Moore at Boise State absolutely deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame, and right now. That's going to do it for the show today. Thanks to everybody who was a part of the show. Thanks to Jack, Garrett, Emery, all of them. Thanks to all of our guests. We're back again tomorrow with another episode. My friend Trey Elling, who's a big Longhorn guy, so Texas haters, get ready. Texas lovers also get ready. Trey Elling is going to co-host with me tomorrow. It should be fun. Don't forget about 365 Sports Tonight. We're almost to 46,000 subscribers. Help get us there. If you're not subscribed, please like and subscribe and share this video at 365 Sports. We love you for doing it. Thanks, and have a great night, everybody.